like to bring the Monday, August 7th, 2023 committee meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute. Mr. Cheek.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building, by faxing notice of this meeting to the Press of Atlantic City and Star Ledger on January 6, 2023, and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City and Star Ledger on January 9, 2023. Mr. Cheek?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Schenker?
Here.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Here.
Mayor Patali?
Here. Moment of silence for private reflection. Thank you. Guest presentation, Cotton Mill Associates Redevelopment Project Update, Block 730, Lots 5.02 and 6, Block 732, Lot 66.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Nick Talvaki on behalf of Cotton Mill Associates. With me tonight is the project principal, Hershey Weiss, our project architect, Shimon Greenbaum, and our project engineer, Mike Gallagher from Colliers. We're pleased to be here. It's been a long road. Mr. Weiss and his family have been working on this project for, as you probably know, many years. There's been a number of setbacks to large fire, a lot of environmental hurdles, but we now have the Pineland Certificate of Filing. That was a big step. We're still working on with some issues with DEP, but we're working through them. We are ready to submit the site plan next week. I mean, literally, I got the final plans last week, and they're ready to go. We've met with your professionals over the years, including, I think, within the last 12 months. So we have a comprehensive redevelopment of this site. It's going to be residential apartments. We're adding some height to it, which we'll get into. I believe it's 115 units, 1 and 2 bedroom units. And there's going to be amenity space, which we'll talk about, beautifully landscaped site, trying to leave the architectural features to the extent possible. But there's going to be a basketball court, a half basketball court, 2 bocce ball courts, outdoor gas grill areas for the residents to be able to cook outside when the season permits. It's going to be a very nice first-class residential community, which we think will be a real benefit and something that the residents of Hamilton Township can be proud of. So, anything else I missed, Hershey, in terms of the approval process? I mean, there's a lot we're going through, but CAF for sure. Yeah, well, I didn't want to. We're working with DEP, CAFRA, Waterfront, Army Corps, county approval, but we're deep into those approval processes. There is separate counsel handling that. My co-counsel, Michael Gross. So there's a lot of work, a lot of other consultants we didn't bring tonight. When we come to the planning board hearing, we'll have the comprehensive list, including traffic consultant and all of those other people you would expect, the landscape architect. But for tonight, we're going to do, hopefully, it's just a high-level presentation, show you where we are, but there's been a lot of progress made, I'll say, in the last 2 years to get this project going. So with that, I'd like to present. Hershey, you want to go first, or Shimon? Okay, so this is Hershey Weiss. I know some of you know him. He's been working on this project for a while.
Too long. I mean, for those of you who have kept
Just
up
please
with
speak
it,
into the mic so that everybody can hear you. Thank you.
So I'm glad to be where we are. It's been a lot of years with a lot of setbacks. First the fire, and then the economy, and then a lawsuit. So, and then at each point we had to go back and start the approvals from scratch, and it's a couple of years for each approval round. So we're here now. We finally have everything together. We found the right architect. As you could see from that photo, this is a view from across the lake. That was the last request we got from the township, is to see what it would look like from across the lake. You got the 3 existing stories and 3 more stories added on, for a total of, so the ground floor is going to be parking, and then we're reutilizing the existing 3 stories that are there and adding 3 stories, for a total of 115 units, of which 10% are going to be affordable. And it's a mix of 1 and 2s. We had a struggle. How too high?
Is the mic on?
Mike's on, it's just not.
It was a struggle over the years finding the right architect to work with the depth of the building, getting light and air into all the units. And if you click to the next photo, I believe, Phil. No, so that's what the building would look like from the outside. We could let the architect explain the architectural features from the outside. We're bringing the grids up all the way up to preserve the industrial look of the building while adding the new stories. Click to the next one. So this is the lower levels, what we ultimately figured out with these units. Each unit will have an interior balcony to bring light and air in, and you have a mix of 1 and 2s. And this is the site plan, and I'm going to let the engineer explain all the features of the landscaping and site plan. Mike?
It should.
Oh.
There you go.
I'm just going to freestyle it because I might go over to the board and just point to things to walk through the board through the site plan and the landscaping plan. I'm Michael Gallagher from Collier's Engineering and Design. I'm the site engineer, licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey. As Hirsch mentioned, we are deep into the approval process. We have our pilot certificate of filing. We filed our waterfront development permit with DEP, and we're moving through the various entitlements. And the next step, of course, is going to be to appear before this board for our site plan approval. So the building, as you can see, is oriented towards the Great Egg Harbor River, which is, luckily north is up on this plan. So to the north, we're bound by the Great Egg Harbor River. To the west, it's Lake Lenape. To the south, it's Old Harding Highway. And to the east, it's Mill Street. Old Harding Highway is a county road. All the site access will be from that road. There will be no access on Mill Street. And as you come into the site at the east end, there's a full movement driveway off Old Harding Highway, and you come into our entry area. I'll move over towards the plan just to help guide.
That would be good.
You move into a parking area, and the first thing you'll see is our monument sign as you come in, which is actually going to be, it's a double gear, which was an artifact we found in the course of going through the site, and it'll be incorporated into the sign. And then you come around this small parking area towards a portico share, which is going to be attractively landscaped. There's going to be, even the hardscapes are going to have some kind of a treatment, whether it's a paver or a textured concrete. Lots of low-level pedestrian lighting, bollard lighting, as well as post-top lights. And then if you're a resident, you come out of the building, you enter into the amenity space. To the east, you have a full court basketball court, pickleball courts, and bocce courts in the sports area. As you continue west, you move into a barbecue dining lounge area. You have 2 outdoor kitchens, a pergola for shade with numerous tables and chairs, some lounge areas. And then you can go up a flight of stairs or a ramp towards a terrace, lounge area with another pergola, all pavers, no solid concrete. It's all very decorative in nature. Up another set of stairs to another terrace lounge area with fire pits, seating walls, again, all landscaped. And you can see it's all interconnected with a series of curvilinear paths, which will be not a stamped concrete, but a concrete sidewalk with various patterns. It's not just a typical, let's just throw down 4x4 squares of concrete. There's a lot of thought put into it. and you move down towards our dog run, which is going to be a turf, a synthetic turf. And all of these amenity spaces were designed using the existing environment that we had. We had a number, at one point this site had 8 buildings on it, now there's 3 remaining. All of these hardscapes are going to be on the foundations and the remaining pads of those former buildings that are no longer there. We're reusing all of the foundations that were in the ground to avoid mass excavations and some of the negative impacts that come along with that, including there's a very attractive historic brick wall along the north boundary of the dining area, which will be preserved and protected. And then there's additional access down towards the lake. We're repurposing one building for boat storage, and then a second building for another amenity space, such as a gym or something along those lines, and possibly along the west side, a restaurant. And then as you come back around towards the building again, you have a number of paths which are lined with bollard height lights to illuminate the paths, as well as shade trees and a variety of different turfs. You have basically some areas it's just lawn, and in other areas it's a meadow grass, which is allowed to grow a little higher, has natural flowers that come up through it. So it's very attractive, scenic area in a relatively small space. The site is 4.75 acres, but as you can see, a lot of it is already filled with other things. So we wanted to really beautify the landscaped areas. We also have across the street some additional parking just to provide more than enough parking for the residents. And as was mentioned, the ground floor is actually parking. There's 54 parking spaces on the ground floor of the building. And in addition to that, we have 2 public access points. First, along the river, we have a public access easement, which will be dedicated to the DEP, which will include a paved walkway, shade trees, and benches. The idea is to basically create a little fishing environment. And then along the lake, we have an access and a 12-foot wide multi-use path. Part of that path will serve as access for the maintenance of the dam and the spillway from Lake Lenape into the river, but it'll also provide another of enjoyment for the public as well as the residents of the community. The amenity space will all be enclosed. There's a decorative fence that outlines all the amenity spaces, but those 2 areas are intended specifically for the public. And with that, I think Shimon can go through what went into the building design.
Thanks, Mike. And finally, we like to have the project architect just to talk about the inspiration and his thoughts in designing this building.
Yeah, my name is Shimon Greenbaum. I'm the managing director of Rise Architecture in New Jersey. Licensed architect in the state of New Jersey and multiple other states. When Hershey came to us with this building, it was a very unique challenge because we had to deal with floodplains, we had to deal with an existing infrastructure that has historic significance, and we had to add something on top of it. The biggest problem that we had with the building was the fact that it's built on piles, it's next to the water. We had to figure out what can this building support. We did extensive research with latest technologies of X-ray investigations and core drilling and digging down in the building to see how many piles there were. And we were able to reverse engineer the building to figure out what it was designed for and how it could support the weight above. When we figured that out, then we saw what we had to do in order to be able to get this building to work. We had our inspiration for the design of the building by actually utilizing the columns inside the building and bringing that up on the outside to be able to support if you go back to the building, I can show that. So basically, we have existing columns at all of those white locations, and we're just bringing those columns straight up on the outside of the building, supporting the building from the exterior to be able to build the units inside. On the ground floors, obviously, the floor plates, as Hershey said, were very, very large. One of the big challenges were how do we maintain the commercial feel, the the industrial feel of the building, at the same time get the light and air that we needed in the building. So we came up with this idea of creating these light sheds into the building. Our fences, as you can see, the safety fences are actually mimicking the window patterns themselves. We're just removing the windows and making them lower so that people can get the light in, but the overall building still has the exact same feel as what it used to have. And then we melded the new with the old by keeping that industrial feel, at the same time having the side benefit of being able to actually structurally support this building without it collapsing. So it's been a very, very challenging building to get to work, both from the inhabitants inside at the same time as taking care and consideration as to the nature and the prominence that this building has had in this community since 1917. So it's I think that, I mean, Hershey attested that he enjoys our firm's work. So I think it's a testament to my entire team as to that we've been able to pull off a design that actually structurally will be sound and is sensitive to the overall fabric of the building itself.
Mayor, members of council, that completes our presentation. Of course, when we submit for site plan, it's going to be a very comprehensive package of materials, and we'll do the full detail, but we're glad we had this opportunity to report to you and to the community the progress that's been made and where we are today. So unless you have any questions, we're complete on our side.
Anybody in the committee have questions? No? I'm good. Thank you very, very much.
See you
Right.
in a few months.
I would say it's a long time in coming, and I'm really excited.
Well, Mr. Weiss stuck it out. There were a lot of challenge. A lot of developers would have walked away, to be honest.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
so much.
Thank you very much. We have no addition or deletions, late agenda items to be considered, so we will move on to early public comment. Brett, do we have anybody signed up?
We have Annie Peacock for 3A.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Annie Peacock. I currently reside with my husband on Driftwood Lane. We've been living here for about 3 years, directly behind Jean's. We chose this place to start a new family because it was beautiful, tranquil, peaceful. Much different from when I grew up. Oh, sorry. Much different from where I grew up in. I grew up in Center City, Allentown, Pennsylvania before moving here. It was drug-ridden, crime-ridden. Our home was broken into twice, once on Christmas. So you can imagine how beautiful it was to have this opportunity to move here, live deep in the woods and be left alone, and have peace and quiet. No dirty syringes on the ground, no drug bags. So let me tell you, this was my escape, my husband's escape. And let me tell you, this is not just us. There's 99 other homes, 99 other families who are going to be affected in this peaceful and loving community. 100 homes, 100 families who contribute to this community that you're working for, that you are voted in for. We are nurses, park rangers, police officers, service members. We are plumbers, school teachers, and we also have special needs children. Our life is about to be forever changed if we do not stop this now. It is now your time for you 5 who were voted in by the public to now provide your services, the one you took an oath for, sworn in to uphold the laws, to always possess integrity and put people first, i.e. the ones who helped get you here. We are the ones who voted for you and cast our votes of confidence, and needless to say, it's waiting for me. Do you know anything about burn factories? Did you do any research? Any research at all, even an iota of research? Do you know anything about cannabis cultivation and that it's been known and proven to contain an abundance of unknowns with no long-term case studies? After watching the meeting from February 2023 regarding the slipshod approval and presentation in which the burn factory presenter could not even answer questions presented to her, that should have been your red flag. She had to pass the torch to someone else to answer questions for something she presented. You gave not even an inkling of thought before you gave all 5 nods of approval. You wasted no time, voted yes. Was that not a red flag when she couldn't answer her own questions and she had to pass the torch? I'm very curious. That didn't raise any things, anyone? Einstein once said himself that for you to be a master of a subject that you are well versed in, you should be able to explain it in simplistic terms. She couldn't. She had to go tap the shoulder of someone else to come to her aid and help out. Speaking of no experience, Justin Anacone, the future COO of this operation, has self-confessed publicly that he does not know much about regarding the logistics of running such an operation. This is a lot more in-depth than raising peonies and selling basil by the roadside. In his LinkedIn profile, you can see he runs an Airbnb, as well as being a farmer and a CPA. Why would you approve of something you know so little about? Not foolish at all, suffice to say. I did a Google research 2 days ago on this burn company, which is when this was brought to my attention. Took 1 minute. There is no information on this company, Burn Factory Inc., anywhere to be found online. Google's the biggest search engine. Was this community not worth 1 minute of research before you nodded your heads? Was that also not a blatant red flag that there's nothing online? Can I present to you what I found? I printed out some copies.
I believe you emailed that to me?
I didn't email all of this to you.
Okay.
But here, if you pull up and you look up their website, I found an article. When you click on it, it gives you a 404 code,
Yeah,
meaning
it's-
there's nothing there. Actually, I'll just give you all of these. You will also find on there that the company is made by a woman with the name of Maureen Sheen. She purchased a home from Justin Anacone, the name of the future company about to destroy our land, and our river has her name on it. So why isn't that a conflict of interest to have someone make a company in her name who owns a property by said official COO? Not fishy at all. This was created on September 3rd, the business. Her name has not come up once in any of the agendas, and I did peruse them, and I did watch them. Did any of you know any of this information? Because I found it on Google in about 2 seconds. How can this be so blindly approved? There is nothing on BBB. It is not publicly traded. There is no data, not a stitch. I emailed Carl 4 case studies the other day. I think it was last night, via email and via Facebook Messenger, showing the horrific, and catastrophic results of such a factory. A case study published in 2019 in California. They devoted an entire watershed to this type of factory. We don't have that means here in Mays Landing. They devoted an entire watershed to this factory, this burn factory, this cannabis cultivation factory, and they ran that sucker dry. They ruined aquatic life. They ruined wildlife. The river, super bone dry.
Just so you know, you have 20 seconds left.
I got like 6 more pages. I got six more pages that's gonna blow your mind.
It's 5 minutes.
Each plant is a water guzzler at
No yield.
22
All right.
liters per day.
All right. I apologize. I should have said before she came up, 5 minutes. There's a lot of people. There you go.
Are you willing to answer why the Facebook?
All right? I apologize. I didn't say something beforehand. All right? There's a lot of people that want to speak. So it's 5 minutes. Robert's Rules of Order. You can't yield your time to anybody else. And that's, otherwise we're going to be here, I don't know how long. I
I
want to
think
give
this is
everybody a
worth our
chance to
community.
speak.
The public has spoken.
Enough.
For 6 minutes.
This is a huge decision that you should have never approved in a residential area. You need to listen to us. We voted for you, and you. And we can vote you out.
Okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Let's go, Nan.
Thank you very much.
6 minutes and 32 seconds.
Do you know that each plant guzzles 22 liters of water a day? Let's run some numbers, shall we? 1,000 plants at 22 liters per day is 22,000 liters a day. I'm sure this little 10,000 square foot warehouse is gonna run a lot more plants than 1,000. Each human here consumes, on average, if we hydrate properly, 2 to 3 liters of water a day. That is a 633% increase of water consumption from from human to plant. Our riverbed can't handle that. It feeds Lenape, which is a tourist attraction. It feeds our pinelands, which a lot of people have a huge heart for in this community. You're talking about revitalizing this whole entire area. You will destroy it. We will be the 2023 Lorax. You will be the onceler and forever go down in history as if you don't mind.
Your
me saying
time
that.
has ended. You
Of
need
course,
to bring
because you
somebody
feel
on.
threatened by what I have about to say, because I have a lot more data to furnish.
I'm not threatened by anything you have to say,
you
but
should let
other
me
people
continue
want to talk
talking.
too.
Thank you very much. I have more support from people that don't even know me compared to someone I voted for.
All right, that's,
No,
I'm
I'm
gonna
not
have to ask
done.
you to move on.
I'm not done. This California case study,
Hold on, stop. As long as she's being orderly.
I will
Okay.
say orally, and I will read this
Excuse me.
verbatim.
So how much time, how much more time?
Enough.
Bruce, you're not up. Bruce,
Can you
everybody
please-
else, she's up
Mr.
here
Mayor,
right now.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something, please? Do you mind if I say something? I don't mean to interrupt you. There's a process here. This is the kind of thing that makes, pardon me?
Did I follow the process?
Ma'am, can you please let me speak? Okay? Everybody's angry. Cannabis did not have to go under redevelopment. You understand that? It was put there by the people. I wasn't here at the time. It was put there by the people on this dais because of this reason right here, to be able to control it. Now, as we've explained in other meetings, there is a process for all this to happen. The first process is to give them an okay. They can venture out and see what they can do with this, get a license from the state or get approval from the state. This is the point where they come back and they say, we have that, and we're going to now go into an agreement with them with an escrow account, okay? This is what everyone's called as the bites of the apple. This is the time for the public, the second time that the public can come in and speak their piece. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be mean about it. We can hear you. We can see you. We see the same things you saw. They were disorganized. Wait a minute. Anybody from the burn factory here tonight?
Yeah,
One person.
no,
Your attorney's here?
Gene,
Anybody else here?
Gene is. The landowner, Gene.
That's probably not a good move on your part.
Had that said on record that his
Please.
attorneys did not show?
Pardon me?
And he asked them to not show up. Can we have that on the record?
It's on the record.
It's all, yeah,
Or
it's videotaped.
So I'm going to ask you, I understand your concern, I hear your concern, we're very aware of the situation, and this is the process that, excuse me, sir, this is the process as it works. Sir, can you please? Okay. This, excuse me,
5-minute recess.
can we please act like adults here, if that's not too much to
5-minute
ask?
recess.
Can we, please? This is the process. We are not angry about this. We are glad to see you. If you don't like what's going on, this is the point where you come to us and say, we don't like what's going on. You don't have to be mean about it. I am not silencing you. I am having what they call a conversation. I understand you would.
There's a motion on the floor.
A motion, excuse me?
There's a motion for a recess on the floor.
Second.
All those in favor of a 5-minute recess? Aye.
No.
Chief asked for it.
We can do that.
I have a motion to go back into session.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion to second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, all I ask, Mrs. Peacock, is go ahead and take your time, and then anybody else who wants to speak, all we ask is don't rehash what she had already brought up. just trying to move things along. That's all that we ask.
Thank you, I
Okay.
appreciate that very, very much.
Thank you.
All right, so let's see here. Back to my 2019 case study from a plant that did this in California. They devoted an entire watershed to one cultivation factory because it drains at horrifically alarming rates, such that aquatic life cannot be sustained. Each plant is a water guzzler, as I previously mentioned, at 22 liters of water per day. Typical growing season, I believe, is about 6 to 9 months out of the year. So every day at, let's throw some numbers out there once again, 1,000 plants at 22,000 liters a day at 9 months. I don't even want to know what that number is. To put it in perspective, the average human, once again, consumes 2 to 3 liters of water per day. This is a 633% increase from human to plant to sustain life for these plants. Not even humans, not even humans. Do they even know the effects of water abstraction and surface water diversions from marijuana cultivation, as it has been documented to significantly reduce or eliminate already low stream flow, particularly during drought years, and therefore threatens the survival of rare and endangered salmonids, amphibians, and other animals? These repercussions do not discriminate against state nor country. These are huge tourist attractions in this area, once again stating Lenape Park. People love going to the Cove. Also the Palace folks, they run a business that's directly on the water. We already have a hard time, an existing hard time, attracting businesses to downtown, Mays Landing. We have a mall in shambles, a racetrack left ridden of weeds, in which a racetrack idea was actually shot down due to noise, from what I was told. At best, there would be 1 or 2 races a season, so 4 days from 365 days, which could greatly bolster our community. You ought to make the Wheaton, I like what their plan was earlier. It was actually quite beautiful. But if you weren't to go that route, make it a parking lot so businesses downtown can actually have parking and people can safely cross the street and put more money, pump more money into our economy. Prior to, let's see here, all this research I presented to you was under 5 minutes of sleuthing time on Google. I found 4 peer-reviewed cases published in the last prior 5 years. Anyone knows from an academic background knows that most case studies need to have relevance, I would say, within being published within 5 years. So I found these cases that were from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and within 5 years. And these do bear relevance, and in this case, it holds water. Peer-reviewed is also another way of saying the data has been legitimized. Prior to nodding yes, did any committee members ask about the potential impact that this can have on our environment, on our land, in our soil, on our homes, any carcinogens? Has anyone learned anything from the community affected by the carcinogens emitted by the Teflon plants? It ruined thousands of lives and was tied up in court for years, finally resulting in a class action lawsuit that surpassed the $671 million mark. Maybe you all know the movie, it's called Dark Waters. What about the safety of these workers? If you have it sealed airtight, which unless they work in a vacuum, toxins will in fact leak out. What about their direct exposure? Studies were done on occupational health and safety in cannabis production and was published on both PubMed and National Library of Medicine in the last 5 years. This furnished physical hazards encountered by workers, which may include biomechanical hazards, electrical, mobile, and fixed machinery, working at heights, confined space, thermal stress, lighting, and noise. There can be contamination of personal clothing from biological and chemical contamination, which can then be brought and transferred into their homes, to their families, to their small babies. Consideration of the allergic and respiratory health impacts associated with exposure cannabis-based aerosols and plant exposures need further characterization and study to ensure there are no potential long-term health effects occurring for workers in this new emerging industry. In the interim, it is recommended that exposure to cannabis-based aerosols and medicinal operations be kept as low as reasonably possible because the long-term health consequences are unknown. Much of this equipment contains customized electrical work prone to spot fires and equipment blockages, placing workers at risk at physical injuries, as well as exposure to noise, vibration, biomechanical, ergonomic hazards. The carrying of firefighting equipment is absolutely essential to put out spot fires as they occur, as the safety procedures are the clearing of equipment blockages. Should they use silo storage for hemp seeds, this could also present OHS risks associated improper management, including silo gas, confined spaces, bioaerosols, entrapment, and engulfment. What will be done to protect these workers? We only have an already heavily strained volunteer firefighter here and limited resources. Will the Burn Factory, Inc. be making any deals with their volunteer firefighters, perhaps pumping some funds into them to help them because they're going to be needed? Do you know any of this information? How do you plan to combat VOCs? Did you research these? Volatile organic compounds. These fun little guys are compounds of carbon that have high vapor pressure and low water solubility, which poses a most detrimental threat to our aquatic life and atmosphere, thus driving the quality of our air in the most heinous direction. Are you okay with this? Are any of you five okay with this? Our wildlife and destroying it all to make a quick buck. This does not even touch the pesticides and fungicides. These crops will indubitably hit our soil, our watershed, and make its way into our homes and drinking water, our bathing water. Are you okay with exposing the community and the people to these toxins? Many years ago in a Time magazine, I once read that the dust in our homes that we use our pledge polish on actually contains the remnants of volcanic ash. Where is our nearest volcano? Anybody know? It's about 5,000 miles away. So if you want to tell me none of this is going to get into our atmosphere and make its ways into our homes, that's a bunch of baloney. If we can get volcanic ash in our homes 5,000 miles away, if we can have the impacts of the Canadian fires make their way down here, completely make our skies hazy to where the sun looked like it was pink, yes, it will go 500 yards over to the people living here. Yes, it will go 30 yards across the street. Yes, it will go directly behind them. Yes, it will make itself into our wildlife and our streams. Anyone familiar with the Roundup commercials? We could be there one day. Have you lived in Mays Landing? Have you lived close to this place? You may be entitled to compensation. That's going to happen. How do you plan to operate safely and protect local residents and preventing contaminants getting into our soil and well water when you have no experience running this type of plant? This sounds like a recipe for disaster. Any contingent plans on the side, just as a precaution in case this goes bitterly south, and it probably will go bitterly south? Will there be liners strategically placed into our soil to act as a barrier of toxins getting into our groundwater? All the garbage dumps in the area, it is an EPA stipulated law that they must have liners buried in their ground to prevent any other leakages getting into their groundwater and contaminating it. All 100 people who live around here, they happen to have well water. Other studies cited on environmental science and technology, also peer-reviewed research media. So yes, their data is also legitimized. Ran tests and discovered those living nearby those facilities experienced regular nausea, that's fun, and burning of the eyes, super duper fun, to the chemicals released into the air, including formaldehyde and formic acid. This study was published in 2022, just last year. Cannabis cultivation facilities, a review of their air quality impacts from the occupational to the community scale, if you wish to look it up. If I'm not mistaken, this master plan arises from a statement from the owner himself, Justin Anacone, stating, "I grew flowers and plants and thought I would try this too." I'm not quoting him directly, that's basically what he said. Has he furnished his schematics? Has he planned any of his electrical wiring? As a lot of this, once again, is customized to deal with this type of establishment. Has a fire marshal has been consulted? They would have to approve all this. Has he provided any research, any safety precautions? This is a heck of a lot and more in depth than just growing bell peppers and peonies, and more detrimental to human, wildlife, aquatic life, watersheds, soil, groundwater, and the atmosphere. Have any local or state or federal environmental groups been consulted in the planning process, or is it planned that they will be consulted? Has anyone consulted anybody? Anybody? We have one here right in town. They can be reached at 609-625-3144 if you need their number. Can we get the results in writing then and signed off by all owners, stakeholders, all committee members, and attorneys? Is this something that you are comfortable with signing? If the answer is no, please do not approve. Will they be conducting inspections? Will any of you personally accompany this project each step of the way to ensure all is safe for our residents living here? Will the EPA be present every step of the way? Can we get these results also furnished in writing and signed off by all owners, stakeholders, all committee members, and attorneys? Is this something you are comfortable signing? If the answer is no, please do not approve. Are you aware it is listed online? The name of the company, the Burn Factory Inc., is only a Class 1 license, which per New Jersey state law, which I printed out for you, I believe it's number 6, they can only grow recreational cannabis. They would also need a Class 3 to store, sell, transfer said cannabis between cultivators, wholesale, and retailers. Per my research, which is public knowledge thanks to Google, they are only a Class 1. This approval was made without any research and should be null and void. What overall impacts environment will this have on us being directly behind it and directly surrounding it? Can we get this also in writing, signed off by all owners, stakeholders, all committee members, and attorneys? If the answer is no, you should not sign this and should not approve this. What pesticides and insecticides and other harmful chemicals will be utilized that can get into our soil and water, that can be irritants getting into our lungs, eyes, wreaking havoc? The water from our wells in which we consume and bathe in, can we get which chemicals will be used and the potential effects to the community in writing and signed by all owners, committee members, all 5 of you, attorneys, stakeholders, and the Anacones? Are they comfortable signing this? Are you comfortable signing off on this? If the answer is no, you shouldn't approve this. What byproducts and VOCs will make it into our soil and drinking water sources? Can we get the results in writing? Is this something that the owners are comfortable signing off on, stakeholders, all committee members, and attorneys? If you're not comfortable, please don't sign this. How will this affect electricity and internet in our homes? There's going to be a huge surge of electric. They will need like their own humongous transformer to do their production. Can we get this in writing, what your plans are for the electrical grid? We have 100 homes and 100 families and special needs children that need electric. Do you feel comfortable signing off on this, all 5 of you? Stakeholders, committee members, also attorneys, and the company's owner? How close to homes do you also plan on developing now and in the future? Can you provide the schematics to show all the developments for the next 20 years regarding all planned expansions? Can we get the results in writing and signed off by all owners, stakeholders, all committee members, and attorneys? Is this something you are comfortable signing? If the answer is no, you should not approve this. How will this also impact our traffic and road integrity on 322, which this area has already experienced recent and utmost horrific vehicle accidents on surrounding Garden, Driftwood, and Cherrymong Drive? Can we get the anticipated results and future traffic plans that are anticipated in writing and signed off by all owners, all 5 committee members, stakeholders, and attorneys? How noisy will this be in our homes being here? How can we get those anticipated results in writing and signed off on by all 5 committee members, the attorneys, the owners, the stakeholders? What are your plans if this causes contamination that directly affects our way of life, up to and including our air quality, water quality, soil quality, and other unknowns? And can you furnish those plans today at this very moment? Can you furnish the plans for the next 5 years, 20 years? Can we all get hard copies mailed to us? Can we get it all signed off by the owners, stakeholders, all committee members, and attorneys? Is this something you feel comfortable signing? If you're not comfortable signing, do not approve this. Will you assist us financially if this poor and grossly uneducated decision causes hardships to our residents? Can we also get this in writing? Are all 5 committee members comfortable signing this, as well as attorneys, as well as the company and stakeholders? Can you provide in writing to all township residents that this poses absolutely no environmental effects to us? No pollutants will get into our soils, our well water, that there's going to be absolutely no short-term or long-term effects to this decision. Can we get that in writing? Will all 5 of you be comfortable signing off on that? Will the stakeholders be comfortable signing off on that? Will the attorneys be comfortable signing off on that? What about parking? Will it overflow into our neighborhoods, line our streets? Our roads are already in bad condition on both Driftwood and Garden. I cannot fathom what the trucks will cause with the impending warehouse. Can we get these answers also written and signed off by all 5 of you, stakeholders and attorneys? Is this something you would actually love to have in your backyard as you're having a family barbecue and there's a big 10, 12-foot fence with barbed wire on it and you're smelling pot all day while you're cooking your chicken wings with your family and playing cornhole with your kids? Is this something you feel comfortable with? Would you sign off on this? Would you want this in your backyard? When this fails, and it is the 5 of you who approve this, are you prepared for possible numerous lawsuits against our township, county, and state? Are you prepared to forever have your names etched permanently in township history by allowing these potential atrocities to 100 families for this beautiful land to occur? And can we get that also in writing by all 5 of you confidently at 100% confidence that nothing bad will happen. You all need to walk our neighborhood, our beautiful neighborhood where we all live and reside, where we give back to the community on a daily basis, our beautiful homes. When this fails and becomes the next mass FEMA cleanup, and we're now going to be nicknamed the 2023 Lorax, how comfortable are you going to be with that? I don't want you to go any further with this decision. Absolutely not one step further. And do you have anything to follow up to that?
Anybody? Nope. Heard and understood.
Thank you very much.
Aileen Dix, 3C.
Let's everybody just take a deep breath and pause, and we will, is it all right, Judy, on the mic? Let's just take a deep breath. Not a moment of silence, please. The reason I am here is because I had the impression from prior actions that there were 6 classes of licenses for cannabis, and we were going to have 4 in each category. That would be 24, simple arithmetic. Then I found out the number is 80. So from yesterday and most of today, I have researched your records, which are right on this clipboard. I'm going to just hit you quickly, as you know I do, with the numbers on the list, but there is 2 sentences I'm going to read off one set of minutes. Number 1, COVID lockdown, March 17, 2020, no public meetings, call in on the phone. That 347 area code is White Plains, New York. My battery wouldn't last long enough on the phone, so I didn't try it. Number 2, November 2020, recreational cannabis approved by our state's voters. Number 3, the state approves the regs, and I think that was February, giving each town until August 21 to opt out or do nothing, and that means you've opted in. Number 4, no record is found asking for township residents' opinions as other towns did, like Northfield, like Summers Point, et cetera. And you can see Summers Point's logo on the top of this I printed today. This is their most recent survey dated March 28th of 22. We had nothing. I think that is where, let's see, I was on number 4, go to number 5. No record found, I just said that. All the way from December of 2020 to July 6th of 2021, there was no public discussion by 3 of you who were there then, you all 5 were not here in 2021, to discuss the concept of cannabis and what was acceptable in our community. On July 6th, there appears to be on your agenda now an ordinance for introduction. July 6, 2021. Mayor Kane stated that much time and effort was put into this ordinance, and we now have a final product which protects the township and will be satisfactory to the public, period. Redevelopment Council, Emily Gibbons, stated that there was a collective effort in choosing an approach, etc. Collective effort by whom? It wasn't by our 5 elected representatives, so who was the collective group? I don't expect an answer. And I don't know if you know the answer. Number 7. Planning, so July 6th, then you flip the ordinance over to the planning board. They have 45 days to review. July 15th, 9 days later, they review. There's 4 paragraphs of discussion in their minutes on page 2, and no mention at Township Committee or Planning Board of the number of licenses to be permitted. Number 8. So it went through, it's adopted. Now we get to May of 22, May 16th, 2022, Township Committee again discussing ordinance number 1989-22, 33 minutes of discussion, send it over to the planning board for a 45-day review. 3 days later, on the 19th of May, the ordinance that is being reviewed limits the type of licenses in certain zones. Aaron Crean does not state to the planning board, and no one on the planning board asked how many licenses. The final item on number 10 is simply the then Pinelands reviews these ordinances and sends it back. If they want something corrected, that's the follow-up ordinance number 2023-2022 was correcting to comply with the Pinelands demands. I'm asking you tonight, reconsider how many licenses are you going to allow in this town? We don't need 80 different opportunities across design commercial, highway commercial, forest, agriculture, and the industrial business park. We don't need 80 of them. So please come back at another meeting with a full-blown discussion, not tonight, full-blown. What is appropriate? What do you think these people want? I don't want any, but it's here and it was approved by the state, so we're stuck. But we don't need 80, and I don't even know if we need 24. But the people who are already in process, like up at the Pinelands, and I can name 3, I won't name them, but there's 3 I've been watching that are at the Pinelands for approvals. So you can't pull the rug out under them at this point. But let's do something about this. 80 is too many. Thank you.
Thank you.
Louis Peacock, 3A.
How are we doing? My name's Louis Peacock. I live with my wife Ann on Driftwood Lane. My wife obviously went over the astronomical amount of environmental concerns and effects that could be caused by this potential business going up in our backyard, so I'll keep it brief. I find it a little strange that 2 months ago in our mail, I was notified that my next door neighbor was putting up a fence, and that if I had any issues with this, for me to come to a meeting to potentially, fight that. Yet a 10,000 square foot warehouse is about to go up in my backyard, and I knew nothing of it until my neighbor Debbie alerted me to this the other afternoon when I was out running an errand. We've selected the 5 of you to represent us and make responsible decisions on our behalf. So I just ask the 5 of you to do a lot more research before you go making such a rash decision on our behalf. That's all I ask. This could have very irresponsible decisions written all over it that could cause major effects to our neighborhood. I understand that there's a place for a business like this, but it's not in the middle of a residential neighborhood. It belongs in an industrial area or, a specified agricultural zone, not in the backyard of little kids that are growing up. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Amy Winterbottom, 3A.
Hi, my name's Amy. I'm not a public speaker. I'm just going to mention that right now. But I'm here to let you know that I live on Garden Road, and I'm not for this marijuana growing facility. We have young kids. We have 3 of them between the 2 of us, and God only knows what kind of health issues will arise from that. I've had cancer twice. I don't want to see it come back. I don't want to see it happen to any of our kids. So I'm just here to say that I am not for this facility. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Hogan, 3A.
My name is John Hogan. I apologize in advance. I've got hard hearing, so I don't know if I'm going to repeat anything that was said earlier. But I'd like to bring up a couple of things that I'm not against people smoking pot. I mean, that's legal. People can do what they want to do. That's their business. And I'm not against somebody making a buck. but I am against somebody making a buck when it goes against the neighborhood that they live in. And unfortunately, this is the incident that we find ourselves in here today. I'd like to bring up a few things. One, what will the noise, and they say there's not going to be odor, but I have information here saying that there's always going to be odor. That's the main problem with these things. It also causes mental and physical problems down the road. We have people in our neighborhood with autism and mental problems, and the noise from this thing is going to create a problem that nobody's even thinking about. Also, I'd like to bring up about the energy that's going to be used during this with the carbon dioxide that the greenhouse will emit. It's definitely very bad for the neighborhood. And actually, well, basically, that's about it. The odor is going to be a big, major effect out there, and people are hiding that fact. And I want to make sure that my word gets out there and try to stop this before it starts.
Thank you.
Wallace Strobel, 3A.
Good evening. My name is Wallace Strobel. I've been a resident of that neighborhood for 33 years. And I can't think of too much that hasn't already been said, so I won't take up a lot of your time. But I do want you to be aware of the fact that I'm strongly against it for the reasons that have already been stated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick Wedby, 3A.
Ladies and gentlemen, just, everything's already said. Annie did a lot of the work. Just on behalf of my family and I, would like to say that, please do not move forward to this 3A development or agreement or whatever stage this is in, but just not interested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob Beasley, 3A.
Good evening. My name is Rob Beasley. I've been a resident of Garden Road for over 20 years now. So a lot of the neighbors here have been here way longer than I have, and we've gotten to know them and raised my 3 children here. And, we're on the verge of empty nesters. And, my wife and I enjoy seeing all the wildlife coming behind our house and everything. So, please don't do this. Don't do this to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison Hesser, 3A.
Hi, folks. My name is Allison Hesser. I'm also a resident of the neighborhood in question with the Burn Factory. I just want to say, again, I agree with everything that has already been said, but this is our neighborhood. And I was at the last meeting. I thought a lot about what was said. And one of the things that I really took home with me was you said, if there's a smell, we'll do something about it. But again, how is that going to come about? Do I have to call you every morning, Carl, and say, hey, I smell? I want to know. I want to know how
No,
that's.
you're going to call Brett. No.
I think I'll call you. But really, how is that going to be handled? And again, I read the case studies just as everybody else did, and specifically in the state of Ohio. I mean, that had to go all the way to federal court over the nuisance of the smell. I really don't want to be in that situation. I've got student loan debt. I'm sure everybody else does too. But that's a pricey fight to fight, and I don't want to have to fight that. And I don't think the neighborhood wants to fight that either. I know that you guys all recognized the disorder that was that group last meeting. And so I thank you for that. At least your eyes were open, and I know that they were. But really consider that, okay? He's an educated guy. Believe me, we all know a lot about you. But, that doesn't mean that you're a professional cannabis grower. And it doesn't mean that you can ride on the coattails of somebody that that's a professional cannabis grower who is not even from around here. This is our town. We love it. We always have, and we always we want to continue to love it, right? And I'm sure you all do too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Winnie Ziegler, 3A.
first name, Brett?
Winnie.
Thank you.
My name is Winnie Ziegler, and I've lived on Driftwood Lane for 53 years.
Hold on one second.
Sorry. Yeah, there you go. I've never spoken one of these. Don't
You're fine, you're fine.
My name is Winnie Ziegler, and I've lived on Driftwood Lane for 53 years, and I live back on the river because of the peace and the quiet and what the environment can do for me and for the other people in our area. I'm concerned about this, and I'm against it because I don't know what it will do to the river, what it's going to do to our water, what it can do to the environment, and that's my basic concern.
Thank you.
Debbie Kraus, 3A.
Hi, Debbie Kraus, Driftwood Lane. You guys know I've been up here many times about this same issue, and nobody behind me, because nobody knew. So I went and let everybody know. And I also had put together a letter, and I have to say that someone did say something about the letter about replacing jeans. But I just want to read something to you that I had asked my daughter to put something out on social media for me because I do not do social media. The best way to get things out to people now is not mail or whatever. You go and you put it on social media. She did, and she kind of had gotten some really bad feedback and said, I don't want to do this, and took her post down, whatever. All she was telling people, she posted my letter, and it came back, it was not, some things were not nice. But she wanted to be here tonight, but she said, Mom, I just don't want to be, confronted. I just want to read you what she wrote. She wrote, hi, my name is Corey Kraus, and I have grown up in Mays Landing 33 years. My family has lived in Mays Landing 45 years. We spent that time making memories together outdoors with our families' home located on Driftwood Lane. The appeal of the land is the fresh air, the beautiful landscape, along with the river full of wildlife. This is where we have spent our time in this riverfront residential community. Families, especially children, run around less than a mile away from Jean's Farm Market. This area was always meant to be a residential community located near the Great Egg Harbor River. Now, a cannabis grow house is threatening to take that away from us. Our air quality will be destroyed, our groundwater threatened, all for the burn factory, and it inevitably leases the land and leaves the people of this area left picking up the pieces when they leave the area. How can the zoning board, who is meant to protect citizens, allow this to forever change and threaten our lives? Our health and well-being needs to be considered. How will it affect the air quality of the families and children a mile away from the proposed grow house? Why are you so eager to add more risk to our residential community? Obviously, I can say that wait a minute, I'm sorry. Okay, I know, this isn't about being for or against pot. Again, just like they've said, I don't care if somebody wants to smoke pot, somebody wants to buy it or grow it. It's putting it in a neighborhood, and it's not just 99 homes. We're with High Bank Road, Driftwood Lane. We go all the way out to the Black Horse Pike and all of Weymouth. We're not asking for anything. There are zones for agricultural use, and I understand they're putting up warehouses, which is considered a highway commercial zone. But this highway commercial zone is one little piece of our neighborhood, out in the front on the Black Horse Pike. We're not asking, we're just saying, put it somewhere else. We already have a dispensary that's gonna open up down the street from us. We're becoming well, we could become the capital of the Mays Landing Cannabis Association. It just doesn't make sense to put it in our neighborhood. Someone had posted something to one of the social media sites about the cotton mill, that the cotton mill, and it had /cannabis. There were many, many people who were against the cotton mill having cannabis because it was in their neighborhood. But really quickly, someone put out that cannabis is not a part of the cotton mill discussion. So if you had so many people worried about the cotton mill that's been sitting there for 50 years doing nothing, having cannabis, why wouldn't we all worry about what it's going to do to our lives? And our community is way different than right here in Mays Landing. We live in the river. We live on the riverfront communities, and all the animals, the deer, the bugs, I mean, whatever. The tree frogs, the birds, and this is all going to affect us. And I'm just here to say that the residents out in our way of Weymouth are not going to be ignored. Even if there is another a late addition to a meeting, we will fight every step of the way to stop this from happening. And I hope everybody here agrees that we need to come in here at every meeting until this is put away.
Bless you.
The other issue that I have, I don't know how many of you have been up to Jean's Farm Market, okay, which is the 13 acres of highway commercial, not 18. It is 13 acres of highway commercial. Has anybody been up there lately, and can you tell me what is up there? Does anybody know what's on that property? Okay, let me tell you. There, according to the website for the state, there is one SS listed on the property website. That means one steel structure, okay? There are 3 or 4 different structures on that property. There is also a home on that property. There is also a pool company that is selling pools on that
Chief.
company.
Chief,
Oh, God.
come here,
Am I
please. Can you please go check what that woman just brought in here? She just dropped 2 bags off. Because you should have you got a gun, bro.
Here she comes. Because we have a captain. She can't bring them back.
So,
Hold on, please, hold on, just hold on.
She moving in.
I don't know. She can't bring all them bags in here. Is it a full moon?
I'm sorry, when somebody brings a bag in and then
I didn't even
leaves,
see that.
I kind of,
okay. So again, this is one highway commercial property with, right now, 3 different uses on it. And I don't know how that ever happened. Because normally you have a highway commercial piece of property with 1 use. There are 3. And you are now going to allow 4, 5, and 6 if there's more than 1 warehouse, which in the original meeting, they were saying that would be our first phase. How many structures can you put on a property owned by different people on one highway commercial piece of property? Does anybody know? No? I'm asking. I just want to know, do you realize that if Jean's Farm Market stays there and they do the cannabis warehouses and they have the house sitting there and they have the pool company sitting there, how many can you have on one piece of property that's highway commercial? Nobody? Okay.
I'm not about to speculate on somebody's piece of property.
Okay.
I mean, I've been out there, it's a farm market. I was out there last week.
Did you see the house? Did you see the pool?
I saw the pool.
Did you see the house? Can't miss the house. The house is right there behind the farm market, like right there.
Okay,
Right there.
been there for as long as I can remember.
And you've never seen the house.
No, I've seen the house, and I'm saying it's been there for as long as I can remember.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and not answer that question.
Right, so.
But I'm not gonna, I don't come back to and go into my office and go, I better check and see if Gene's allowed to have a house there.
No, I'm sure the house was there first, and then the farm market, but what I'm saying.
I mean, if you have a question about it, then I suggest you call the zoning office.
No, I'm sure that the house was there pre-Pinelands and pre-everything, and then the farm market. What I'm saying to you is, Gene's Farm Market, if they are not gonna be replaced by the warehouses, then Gene's is going to be a business who is going to lease out property to the pool company and lease out property to the grow houses. What else? I mean, how many businesses can you have on one highway commercial property? How many? Yeah. And have they approved them all? And, yeah, exactly, and we're asking them not to approve this one. Okay, I think that, I'm just asking you again, this is the third or fourth time I've been in here about this same thing. Please do not let this go any further. I keep being told, Debbie, it's in its infancy, we're not, nothing's gonna happen. This is just something that the state wants, and this is just one. Don't do this resolution tonight. Please do not do this resolution tonight. Go online and look at the information about the environmental effects it's going to have. And I did see tonight online where people I'm trying to think what state it was, actually filed lawsuit against the town and the cannabis company and actually won the lawsuit to stop one of these from happening. Do we need to go through all that? Please just do not go forward with this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce Straw, 3A and 3C.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have some visual props with me, if I could have Brett help me with this. I want to dovetail on what Mrs. Dix was saying with the 3C, the number of cannabis licenses by ordinance. This is a zoning map of Hamilton Township. And if I could show that, could we go over here so the public could take a look at this too, please?
This is a presentation.
Mrs. Dix mentioned that there were a total of 81 licenses.
I mean, I'm not going to have my administrator stand there and hold your stuff up.
Someone else.
There's usually an easel. Oh, Brett's a friend of mine. He doesn't mind.
This is public. This is public comment.
Point of order. This isn't a presentation. You have to address the chair,
Okay.
not the
Well,
audience.
can we stand over here so everybody can see it? If you look at the agricultural zone, which is in this section right here, there are a total of 8 licenses that are being made available. 4 cultivating and 4 manufacturing. In the forest area, let me just show this real quick. In the forest area is all the green, okay? This is in the western part of Hamilton Township where, can you just grab that, please?
This is not a presentation.
Yeah, you're supposed
Where
to.
Gene's Farm Market is.
Talking to us,
I am.
not to.
I am. I am talking to you, okay? In the forest area, there are 12. 4 cultivation in the FA10, 4 cultivation in FA25, and 4 cultivation in FA70. In the industrial park, which is just down the, I hope you all know where the industrial park is, near the post office, there's a total of 24 licenses being made available, 4 in each class. Class 1 for cultivation, Class 2 manufacturing, for manufacturing, for wholesalers, for distributors, for retailers, and for delivery. In design commercial, which essentially is from, along 322, there's 3 design commercial. Jean's Farm Market is one of them. And from Mays Landing through the mall, there are 16 design commercial locations and 16 highway commercial. And if you look at the map as a whole, probably there are licenses available probably in 90% of the entire township. So it's not just the Jean's Farm Market, is everywhere in Weymouth, Bears Head, around the Mispa area, and especially through the Industrial Commission. So the question is, do we need 80?
No.
So hopefully this issue is brought back to take a complete look at the number of licenses available, especially with everybody in the town. You're going to be close to one of these licenses that will be available. Very close to residential areas. A 20-acre plot was just purchased in the industrial park, which is just across the street from Chancellor's Place and Mays Landing Village. And this is even a more condensed area than the area we're talking about tonight. So I think a complete overhaul and a look at the licenses available will be considered. Thank you.
Ray Kamlowitz, 3A. Kamlowitz?
What was that name?
Close. Ray and Julie Kamlowitz.
It's my wife and I. And we're over on 3rd Avenue, which is not that close to Jean's, but we all drink the same water, even as far away as we are. And that's a big concern. If our well runs dry, am I going to be here in front of all of you saying, what do I do now? I mean, don't sell us out. If it was in anybody's neighborhood, they would all be here. And you all know it. If it was in your neighborhood, your neighbors would be here behind you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Heather Boone, 3A.
Good evening. My name is Heather Boone. I live in Indian Branch Park, which is down the road a piece. Sorry. First, my credentials. I've lived here for all of my 68, well, most of my 68 years. I grew up on the river. I live on the river now. I am a master gardener. I'm a professor of social sciences at Atlantic Cape Community College. I work at Bob's Garden Center. I have for 18 years. All of that serves to inform my opinions here. As a neighbor and a longtime customer and friend for the Anacone family and Jean's Farm Market, I'm here to speak in support of authorizing the escrow agreement and progress toward the establishment of this business in general. As a neighbor, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. I value the commitment that the Anacone family has made to their business, but also to the community, including, very much so, the Weymouth Volunteer Fire Company. They bring us high-quality products at fair prices. They bring us stability in an environment where a lot of people pick up and leave, where businesses close or move on. Justin is the third generation of this family business, and he represents both consistency and progress at the same time. This is what I want to see for Justin, and this is what I want to see for our community. The opposition to this whole project, as it turns out, those people who have spoken in opposition to it have presented numerous, what I think of as veiled concerns about the burn factory. What's more likely is that there is lingering stigma and misinformation about cannabis or long-held anti-marijuana mores and laws. The objections voiced by some of my fellow citizens tonight, I believe, are based in maybe even unconsciously held beliefs. It takes time for a population to adjust to evolving social norms. But research and current practices overwhelmingly support a positive regard for the controlled, regulated production, sale, and use of many cannabis products. I'd like to correct some of the misinformation and offer perhaps a rebuttal to some of the ideas that have been presented so far. I've been taking notes furiously. That have been presented as objections. And these come in no particular order because I've been running out of space on my paper. One of the gentlemen talked about CO2. CO2 is absorbed by plants. It's not exhaled. CO2 is taken in. What they produce for us is oxygen, which would be good if this were an outdoor facility. But it's an indoor facility, and so that really has no bearing on those of us walking around outside of the facility. I wonder if people have any idea. There have been a lot of concerns about water usage. This facility will not be drawing water from the river. It'll be drawing groundwater. And I know that there is not an inexhaustible supply of groundwater. I also have a well. But it is not a matter of drawing from the river and depleting the water in the river. That's just not going to be happening, as far as I know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I wonder if people have any idea how much water is used to grow beef for those hamburgers you're cooking in your backyard. It's one of the most water-intensive industries out there, and yet I don't hear anybody talking about we should stamp out hamburgers. It's just a lack of knowledge. Yes, let me just continue here. All of the concerns for workplace dangers that were enumerated apply to any agricultural operation, any, whether it's indoors or outdoors. Agribusinesses use chemicals. They use fertilizers. If you don't want to eat corn, that's fine. Then we'll stop growing corn. But we live in an agricultural area. And whenever you're driving down the road in Salem County, you're driving past acres and thousands of acres of farms that use chemical pesticides and fertilizers. They are in the wind as it's blowing across the road. That wind is blowing into your car. This is a reality that we live with. It's not that I wouldn't love for all of us to be organic gardeners, but we're not, particularly in the business. The application of these chemicals is done by licensed people who have had to learn how to use them properly. You cited somebody cited the Roundup concern, and of course, you know, that was something that was put out there and made to sound as if Roundup itself is a bad thing. It is not. It gave people who applied it incorrectly cancer, right? But if it's used properly, it's no more dangerous than any other product that you might use in your home, any other cleaning product or any other kind of insecticide, not to mention the fertilizers and insecticides and other chemicals that people use on their lawns. It's not that I don't appreciate the background music, but
I don't know if anybody doesn't know, but their phone's going off.
What is far more dangerous are people's lawns in your yard. You're applying chemicals to your lawns. You're fertilizing them. You're putting insecticides down on them. That water does run off into the river. So if you're concerned about the quality of water in the river, don't put fertilizer on your lawn. Let the wildflowers grow or do something else. But take some responsibility. If you're going to do research, do all of the research, not just the research that you pick and choose to make a point. Atmospheric dust, well, I can't even begin to talk about how much is involved in atmospheric dust, including automobile exhaust. The neighborhood that we keep, I kept hearing references to a residential neighborhood, and of course Jean's Farm Market is not in a residential neighborhood. I think that's since been corrected, but it is a commercial establishment there. It's not in a residential neighborhood. It abuts a residential area, but it is not itself one. There's a problem. There were also many references to case studies, and being a professor of social sciences, I'm very well versed with how science works and how peer-reviewed articles work. And the problem with case studies is that they can't be generalized. So a case study is only good for that case. You might get a bunch of them, but I don't imagine that any research that would have been done in preparation for making comments tonight was an exhaustive scientific inquiry. And so again, we can pick and choose. Googling stuff does not count as research. It counts when it comes to helping you to understand an issue, but it does not represent a full, evenly balanced collection of knowledge for the sake of understanding. What has been presented here tonight has been not balanced and has been very selectively curated for someone's intents. I think that there has been a lot of support for certain speakers who have gone on at length and presented many rhetorical arguments for which there are no answers, but who apparently lack a great deal of knowledge about agriculture and agribusiness, how it's done. A lot of the questions that were asked rhetorically really show a lack of understanding about the business, the agribusiness itself, and a lack of understanding about the process of how a business comes before this body and other bodies and gets approved or not approved. I think a lot of the questions that were supported by many of the people here are questions that we have at an emotional level but don't represent a great deal of thought or knowledge about this whole process. In addition, some speakers here who have gained a great deal of support do not represent all people. The speakers here are not elected officials and do not represent whole neighborhoods. They represent their own interests. The group of people who are amassed here tonight are here out of legitimate concerns, and I applaud them for showing up and for speaking their piece. But it is not to be taken as a representation of all of the rest of us who also live in that area. This is a like-minded group. I came here because I saw the same postings and thought, oh my gosh, I better get out here because there's going to be a mob. And I mean that in the sense of a lot of people who are going to represent a block of concern, but it certainly does not represent all of us who live in that same area. And I wonder, would any of the concerns that have been raised here tonight about water, soil, noise, electric use, internet use, parking, would any of these concerns be brought up if the business were something else, like a flower growing facility, or a school, or a gym, or a liquor store? Would we see neighbors coming out in force and making the same kinds of arguments? My guess is probably not. If we're honest, I think we have to recognize that the time is over for prejudices and stereotypes. The benefits of this business far outweigh any of those long-held stigmas and prejudices. I think it's time for us as a community to support honest, hardworking, long-time, good citizens, local citizens of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roland Kraus, 3A.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have anything written down. I'm totally against this. 23 years we lived on the river. 45 years we've lived in Mays Landing, maybe longer than 45 years. Built many houses in Mays Landing to help the taxes come along so everybody gets jobs, and was very happy doing that. But in the process of doing that, it cost me and my wife thousands and thousands of dollars for bug studies, plant studies, barred owl studies, you name it, we had to pay for it before we could build anything. And I hope that they have to spend millions for what they're doing. We supported their business for the 23 years that we lived up there. Family was a great family, but just tonight, his old man threatened me, told me to come outside because I disagree with what they're trying to do. And I'm not happy about that. The other thing I like to say is if somebody hits a skunk on Route 322 in our development, we know they hit a skunk because it smells. And when one of my neighbors pumps out their septic system, it stinks. And some of you smell worse than others. But that's the reality of this neighborhood. It's smaller than you think. It's not some big, massive, giant area. There's hundreds of houses in a small area. And they all have septics, they all have wells. No public sewers or well water. This is going to totally disrupt that neighborhood, and I hope you people take that in consideration. That's all I got to say. I'm against it.
Thank you.
That concludes public comment. That's it.
Thank you.
He's the last one.
I want to say something here because some stuff was said. I have done my research. When cannabis came in, the state of New Jersey has webinars that I went on and I watched, and it didn't get it was pretty simple. But I read what Mrs. Peacock sent over to me. I read what I could. You sent a lot of stuff. I breezed through some of it and other things I read. I also I've done my own due diligence and looked into things. One of the things that was brought up was housing and does it lower your property values? And some articles say it does, and some articles say it raised property values. Then when it comes to, so this is a warehouse. It's inside growing. So by rights, there shouldn't be much pesticides. It's inside. So what little there is, that would be minimal. Fertilization is all done. I've toured a facility. Obviously, I don't know if his facility is going to be the exact same. I don't know. I haven't seen his plans for that yet, but I would assume that it's going to be the same because he's going to have to keep up with all the other guys and do everything the same way, try to make as much money as he can. It's going to be tough. As for talking about water. So, we live over top of the Cohansey Aquifer. It's giant. The last thing I read about the Cohansey Aquifer, over 1 trillion gallons of water. So the chance that he's going to do something to cause the water level to drop, I think is minimal. But that's not my job. That's the DEP. He's going to have to go to the DEP, and he's going to have to give them, like anybody, I'm sure some of you have gotten wells, and you had to get a permit from the DEP, and they're going to ask you how much water are you going to use. They're going to go through all that. And they're the professionals. They're the ones who know what they're talking about. They're the ones that know all that information. Listen, I design asphalt. I build roads. You know, if you want to know about that, I can tell you all about that. So, and don't, please everybody, don't think I'm doing this because I'm taking his side and I'm going to do this. I just want you to understand where I'm coming from. This is the first step, and it would be this would be just for, because it's cannabis, all cannabis projects have to be rehabilitation / redevelopment. So it gives Township Committee much more power over top of that. We have our cannabis ordinance that states all these things, everything that they have to do. Talking about sound and how loud things would be and worried about sound pollution. We already have an ordinance for that. I believe it's 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. There's, you know, you're not allowed to have, it's so many decibels. That's there. They can't change that. That's there. So they would give their $7,500, and that would start, and that is just to write a rehabilitation agreement. And that's all that's for. They have not gone in front of the planning board yet. They have not gone in front of the zoning board yet. Those are all separate accounts that they would have to open, that they would have to fund to pay for all those engineers and all those professionals. So we didn't even get close to that yet. But I'm just saying this to let you guys know kind of where we're at, where I'm at, how, and you know, I felt like there was some, you know, said that we didn't study this or we didn't, you know, this, I'm talking for myself, not for everybody else up here, but I have. And I do not claim to be an expert on it, in no way, no how. I go to, you know, Phil probably knows more than me. Emily, I'm sure, knows more than me. And a little bit, yeah, just a little bit. I think a little bit more than a little bit. You know, they are our professionals, and that's where we go. They're our professionals. And that's why we would get, you know, have do this development, and then the money is there so that the taxpayers aren't paying for us to go and ask our professionals. He's going to pay for it, or whatever, whoever it is, whoever it may be. They're going to pay for it. And that's why we go into this stuff. So you come, you know, when our residents come to us, as you did tonight, and ask a lot of questions, that's what that $7,500 is going to go towards. And of course, if you know, it goes down below 2,000, they have to put more money in there, because we're going to our professionals and asking questions and asking for help and asking for guidance for this. Now, don't get me wrong. I see you. I see all of you. I see you, and I have heard you. We have heard you. All right? I'm not going to say we. I have, because I don't speak for the other 4 people up here. I've heard you. I understand. I get it. So, you know. You don't have to take that step. You're right, I don't. And I could take that step. But, you know, that's going to be some discussion that's going to happen, and we'll go from there. So. That's what you're saying, not in your neighborhood.
Please,
Well,
please.
It's not in, I mean, I'm not sticking out, and I'm not standing up. All right, that's enough. That's, all right, I don't need that. All right, I'm sitting here being really, really honest with everybody. All right, and I don't need people to be shouting back at me. And I think I kind of said that. All right, but I will say that if you want to go down that road, we'll go down that road. And I'll say that, yes, I have a non-conforming use business in my neighborhood. It's been there for as long as I can remember. And yeah, it's the roller skating rink. So yeah, I do have a non-conforming use in my neighborhood. And on the weekends and sometimes, there's an awful lot of traffic that we have to deal with. You know, and I'm not saying, you know, because I do that, then you guys should do this. That's not what I'm saying. But when you bring that up and kind of throw that in my face, I'm going to tell you that, yeah, and just there's many neighborhoods that have non-conforming uses in them that they have to deal with. That's all. Okay, and I heard you, and you know, it's going to be discussed, and all I tried to do was tell you what, you can't, I'm sorry. You have to wait until public comment at the end. That's all I have to say. Anybody else have anything to say?
If I might, I was just about to thank all of you for being adult-like, and that slipped off the rails a little bit, but now we're back on the rails again. We're good, right? So I've also visited sites, and I understand what your concerns are, and I won't get into detail what I saw there. I think that these places these types of buildings have a place, and maybe this isn't the right one for this particular application, but we'll see how it goes.
I have a question. This is not an application this resolution is not the agreement to start it, am I correct?
This is a resolution
For escrow,
to go into an escrow, yes.
which means they put money in it, so it's a possibility that once it goes through all of the professionals, if they find something, or if he doesn't make Pine Lands or whatever, it might not happen.
That's correct. Yes, this is basically, as the mayor said, all this is to set up that escrow account. It allows writing of the redevelopment agreement between the township and the developer, which spells out, you know, what they're going to have to do. And then from there, it goes through the regular approval process as any other land use development. They're going to have to file with the Pinelands Commission. Since it's an agricultural use, DEP would get involved with the well. They're going to have to come to the planning board, presuming that they meet all the conditions of the ordinance itself, yes. If they don't meet all the conditions of the redevelopment plan, then it's an application to the zoning board. But it still has several layers of approval yet to go. And that's in addition to Department of Transportation.
I'm sorry. We do have a chart, correct? And it's written in that. So the chart's very specific on how the steps are supposed to be. And the next, oh, look, everybody's got copies of it. All right, so.
He's got one.
He's got one.
Okay.
He's got one.
So
He's got one.
I just want to make sure that the chart
I
has to
have
be
one right
followed,
here.
Dr. Witherspoon. And
I
you just need to
understood
know the next step right now.
Right.
So what is the very next step after this,
If we
of this escrow, so that everybody's on board with it?
negotiate the redevelopment agreement,
Redevelopment agreement, and then that redevelopment agreement goes to where?
Comes back.
Which is a plan, which was not even a plan yet. It's just a redevelopment agreement. And then after the redevelopment agreement, it goes
then it goes to the planning stage.
to the planning stage, which the planning stage has to have a vote for here, whether you like it or you don't like it. And if it gets passed, it goes to the planning board. If it doesn't get passed, I think there's a big red thing that says stop. What's the item number on the correct? Okay. So there's a lot of processes still for you to see something. This process right now is only to start to review whether or not we want to make rules on the plan. That's it. So there's no approval whatsoever right now.
Thank you for articulating that, that's what I was
Now,
trying
the
to.
way I understand it, this just is to allow
the escrow account to start the redevelopment agreement.
Redevelopment
They still
agreement.
have to, I mean, I don't blame the people who are
Correct.
concerned with environmental issues, odor, stuff like that.
Yeah,
They
that-
still have to adhere to all of that down the road.
And there's still a redevelopment plan that can
Yes.
incorporate stronger rules into that plan,
Or ordinance, yeah.
into the ordinance that they would have to meet, and if they don't meet, they will not get approved.
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
And if I could just add,
So now basically everybody, we're on to 3A now. Just,
Well, it was a question, so I think.
Thank you.
but Mayor, I just want to emphasize that if you do enter into that escrow agreement, there's been a lot of information here a lot of questions from the public. That is the time period within which committee and the professionals have to look into those questions, get the answers, the scientifically backed answers, professional answers, perhaps do another tour, see exactly what the facility might look like before we negotiate a redevelopment agreement, before we take those additional steps, so that everybody is informed and everybody has as much information as they need to make a decision to go forward. Without that escrow agreement, everything will stop.
right, and that escrow agreement is so that that work is done on, for lack of a better term, done on their
The
dime.
developer, yes.
On
yes,
their
with the-
dime, it's not taxpayers' money, so.
Correct. And I just wanted to, the question about the number of uses that can be on a particular property, if a particular property is limited in how many businesses can operate on it, under the redevelopment plan, no use variances can be granted. So the cannabis operator has to meet all of the conditions, but they also cannot go to the zoning board to get a variance to have an additional use that's not, if you were only limited to 2 permitted uses, 2 principal uses on a site, they couldn't get a variance to allow a 3rd or a 4th. So that's a limitation that also exists. So I think that that's probably one of the first things that should be looked at here is how many different uses are on the site, how many are permitted on the site. And that's the very first thing that the property owner should be doing.
What kind of stipulations, if it went to redevelopment, would you explore?
I mean, I would recommend that before we even negotiate a redevelopment agreement, that all of the questions that the public has presented this evening with regard to odor, water usage, the different permits that they're going to need, the type of facility that they're going to operate, those questions should get answered in that negotiation process before we ever implement any kind of conditions on a particular developer. I certainly think that the ordinance that Mr. Sartorio's office and Mr. Knoll have worked on with regard to the operation and the licensing and penalties and enforcement address odor, address lighting, noise, and the penalties if those things are not followed. Just for example, in the ordinance, there are statements with regard to, and requirements with regard to measuring from specific distances the odor that's in the air. And this is done very frequently and must be maintained and reported to the township. So not only can residents let you know that they're smelling something, but the operator must be taking these tests and reporting that information back to the township as well. So you have protections built into the enforcement document that is on the agenda for public hearing and adoption. But at this point, I think the most important thing is if committee is interested in getting answers to the questions that have been presented tonight by the residents, and to confirm some of the information that was been presented by other residents, then that's establishing that escrow to allow your professionals to do that. If you're not interested in doing that, then you don't approve the agreement.
So what I'm hearing is, is that we have to do more research before we authorize an escrow agreement.
No, exactly the opposite. In order to be able to do the sufficient amount of research, you would authorize the escrow agreement, because that does not guarantee for the redeveloper applicant that they are going to get a redevelopment agreement. Those are the words that are in that document. There is absolutely no guarantee. It just gives the township the ability and the funds to pay for all of that research that you all need to do, and that your professional team needs to do in order to make sure that this is or is not an appropriate location for the proposal.
And you didn't state your name, even though I know who you are.
Oh, I apologize, Emily Givens,
And you are a,
redevelopment counsel. I'm an attorney for the township.
Okay, once that redevelopment agreement has been researched and been, looked at, well, how would we communicate to the public what you found out and what you would suggest?
Well, again, that would come before a public hearing. All of that, everything that is done publicly. Discussions of redevelopment agreements, terms of
That could be
redevelopment.
several pages long, right?
Pardon me?
That could be several pages long.
Redevelopment agreements are generally, 20, 25 pages long, yeah, and it has a lot of information in it. But before we would get to that point, we would have another discussion and presentation by the developer. If that redevelopment agreement were put in place, it would only be because you, as a committee, are satisfied that the information that you've determined through that time period that you've set forth, all of the scientific information that you needed is confirmed. The uses that he's allowed to have on the site, the number of uses has been confirmed. Our engineers are going to take a look at that. The planner's going to take a look at that information. You all are going to take a look at that information. I'll have a view of it. Phil will have a view of it. And that's what the, Mrs. Dix mentioned, collaborative effort. That's the collaborative effort. It's not one person working on it. It's a collective effort of the professional team that you have hired here at the township.
So if I
So the
understand-
publication of that would be online?
No.
The agreement itself, no, but you would have just your agenda, your general agenda.
The people don't get to see that?
It's online.
For instance, 25 pages of that would be online?
No, not the redevelopment agreement itself. It becomes public once it's authorized.
My question is.
But we can
is
discuss it in a-
How do you communicate to the public through your redevelopment proposed agreement so that the public knows what
That would be,
going
that would be 9A, public presentation of agreement, Township Committee.
Okay, so then it's going to be another 2 hours of explaining what is agreed to.
I would say at least 2 hours, yes.
So if I understand you correctly,
I would say that it should be put online and then reviewed, because like when I have a package like this, people don't have that package, they have this. And they should be made aware of what you have put under the redevelopment agreement.
Well, I would write it, but I think if you do that, then that entire packet that you have in your hands should also go online for everybody to see. It's a decision you all need to make. It's not my decision.
but we can't get the questions answered that the public has without the escrow agreement.
Correct.
The questions that they brought up tonight, the things that they wanted to see to make sure of that extensive report, there has to be an escrow agreement in order for our professionals to answer the questions and bring that back to the public.
Yes.
and then that comes back to us before there's any agreement. Right now, the
Yes.
escrow is to have the professionals look at the questions and concerns.
And the proposal that they have submitted information with regard to security and with odor and different things that need to be looked at, which haven't been looked at yet,
And then
because,
it comes back to us.
Yes.
And the public, and they will have their answers or concerns again, or whatever.
correct, they'll have an opportunity to speak again, because it's all going to be done at a public meeting.
But then again, it has to be presented, they don't come with a package of 25 pages or 30 pages of what you have sort of agreed to do. They should be informed.
I agree they should be informed, and that's why
But
that's part of
They're not
this.
going to be informed by a 15-minute discussion. They're going to be informed when they can actually read what you have agreed to.
It's what the township has agreed to.
Well, what you propose for the township to agree to.
Right,
That
but we're
is,
not there
that is a
yet.
committee decision. That is not that's not my decision to make.
But you're going to be researching it as a redevelopment attorney. And every question that they have again about the water and the environment, are you going to address that in that report to us? I say that report should be presented to the public so that when we come together, we can be apprised as to your, I mean, we have to, at the end of the day, agree to go to the next step. But what I'm saying is that if we want our public informed, that redevelopment agreement that you're proposing for us to approve should be presented to the public.
Emily?
I think we
Emily,
all agree
can
with,
I?
I think we all agree with that, but we're not there yet.
Carl,
No,
can
we're
we get
not
some
there yet,
questions from
but,
down the
you
center
know,
of the
that's where I
dais,
feel
please?
is
Yes.
Art has some questions.
All
So,
right.
I mean, my concern right now is that this property has multiple uses going on right now. In our ordinance, as it sits right now, to be a retail, you must have a standalone, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm kind of wondering, how do we have a grow going on a piece of property that has multiple uses? Shouldn't that be a standalone also? Standalone property?
No, what, I was not aware, I'm not part of the review of the RFQs that come in.
I'm asking you directly about the ordinance. I've been
right,
back
and
5 months and I've been reading it, and it's the reason we have 3C, because there's things I see I don't like. So I'm kind of confused here because a retailer says it has to be a standalone business. We've had people come before us that have been turned down because they want to put it in a strip mall or something of that nature, okay? So there's nothing in our ordinance right now that says that in order to have a grower or any other type of cannabis, that you must be on a piece of property that has a single use. There's nothing in our ordinance right now that says that.
I don't see it in the cannabis ordinance.
Okay.
However, it could be in your general zoning ordinance, which also applies.
Okay.
And so just because you don't see it in this cannabis ordinance doesn't mean it doesn't exist. This ordinance was written to say that any part of your zoning ordinance or other ordinances of the township that are not amended by that also apply. Which is why, when I heard that there are other uses on the site, my first thought was, but before we go any further, it should be determined whether or not an additional use is permitted. This cannabis use cannot go to your zoning board.
Can we
cannot
get
get a
that
use
question
variance.
answered without going into an agreement?
I'm sure.
I'm not going to put the man on the spot.
No.
My question is, do we need to go into this agreement or pass this resolution in order to get that question answered? Because to me, that's really the most important question.
Yeah, when I heard the question from the resident, then that's exactly what I thought. I would imagine that you could get that answer.
Because my concern here is once we go into an escrow agreement, it starts to cost the gentleman over there
Correct.
money. And if we can answer something that doesn't require a whole team of professionals to answer, because this could be dead on arrival,
Right,
correct?
I think so.
Okay.
So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we table it and find that out.
I second.
Under public comment.
they really shouldn't be in front of. No.
Mr. Chief, you
Sorry.
second it? There's
Yeah.
so many people talking. Thank you.
Who's this house? Okay,
There's a motion.
well, you've proposed to table this.
Yeah. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of tabling this? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Tabled. You want to take a break? All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. All right, we're back. Welcome. 3B, Hamilton Township landfill closure update by Jeff Day. Day, night, whatever. Just don't call me late for dinner.
It's actually die, but it's okay, everybody.
Sorry,
gets that.
sorry, die.
It's okay, everybody gets that mixed
I've
up.
been calling you the wrong thing for how long now?
Everybody gets, yeah, okay.
Oh, really?
No apology necessary. So, quick update. I promised Committeewoman Link I would be fast here, given the evening so far. I just want to give you an update, talk about the status, some changes we're making, and go over the budget. The public had asked, one of the members of the public who should remain nameless, had asked Brett. Brett had asked me to provide an update on some of the budget activities and grants that have, summary of grants that have been. And then I'm going to write all this up in our report, submit to the committee, similar to reports we've been submitting periodically. Last one was this past March. We've submitted all of the application to the Pinelands Commission after approval in our discussions at the March and April meetings in May. That included the landfill closure plan, remedial action work plan, which included all of the RI investigative data to the commission. After that submittal, we had an opportunity with some clean fill material that would have been helpful for our cap. It was actually processed dredge material that was remarkably clean, even past the Pinelands Commission. There's a lot of technical I get into on that, but you have to use the practical quantitation limits, which is the lowest level the laboratory can detect for the Pinelands criteria, and this material actually met that. We couldn't get or expedite the Pinelands to give us an approval of our application. We asked them for any kind of special interim approval, just not available. We appreciate the mayor had reached out for some assistance. Brett was very helpful. All the professionals have been supportive along the way, and so we appreciate that. That opportunity will hopefully come around again. We are always looking at for the clean fill material we need for the cap, and we will proceed with that going forward. Part of that pushing the Pinelands gave us, that's supposed to be within 30 days, it was not, but they finally gave us our letter. Within that letter, they asked us again for the $5,000 that we talked with them about years ago, even though before I submitted the application, they told me it wasn't necessary because we submitted the application with $15,000, which should have covered that. Anyway, they now have the $5,000. They're going to do their technical review, and in the interim, we're going to address a couple of other items, or all the items in their other letter, and hopefully be prepared once that review moves forward. They're going to use an out-of-house consultant to do the review on that technical. Now that they've got the funds there, I'm reaching out and trying to find out who that is so we can meet with them, present the data, make it as easy to understand, and try to expedite that process. They indicated in their letter that could take up to 6 months, their review process, which seems very long to me, but that's why we want to meet with their hired outside professional and see if we can expedite that process. We're also submitting the soil erosion sediment control plan this week. Brett just signed that application for me today. And we think the Soil Conservation District's review and approval of that document will help the Pinelands where they are. You already know from prior submittals that the landfill closure plan has been reviewed by the DEP. DEP is prepared to issue an approval on that but Pinelands Commission wants to review it and approve it first. As things have moved along here, we're going to make a change in our engineering firm.
We've been using T&M Associates. We think it's a better approach for us right now to switch engineers going forward. And we're going to move to, with another gentleman I work with quite a bit, Tim Kernan from Colliers Engineering. Colliers is here tonight. Mike is also at Colliers. They're also working with Atlantic City ACIT on their build out there and their energy plan. They're talking about a possibility of their energy and how they're going to do that. So the ACIT, as you may recall, is one of the potential users of the energy from the solar development. So we think that's a good synergy there. We actually have some concept designs of interconnection and have looked at both Special Services School and ACIT and the joint board. Back in 2017, we got a PPP approval with them. So it's one of the reasons I didn't write up the report yet. I'm meeting with Tim over the next couple of weeks, get his schedule. We'll get a written report in for this. He's also going to address some of the things in the Pines' letter with us. Budget. And again, this is relative to where we are, what we've been able to obtain. We have obtained, in partnership with the Township, $4,952,000, $4,952,467 and some change of total grant monies from the HDSRF. Of that amount, we've spent just over $1 million so far that includes all the investigation initially and the first phase of remediation, which was all the documents I just indicated we submitted to the Pinelands Commission. The total project budget for remedial action going forward is, the total project budget for remedial action is $5.5 million, a little over that. That's funded with $4 million, a little under $4 million of remaining to go of that total amount of grant money, and the redeveloper is going to contribute $1,382,447 going forward. We've already committed and spent for the project $448,568. That's outside of anything that was provided with grant monies. That's the matching 25% for the portion of the remedial action grant and other costs that we've incurred so far. In addition to the 1.38 to complete the closure, there'll be another $800,000 net present value of escrow money to maintain the landfill over 30 years. So we're going to contribute all those funds to the project. And that'll then result in our financial plan that also is a part of the landfill closure that goes into the department. That hasn't been finished yet because it's not quite finalized. One of the factors there, and I will be coming back to committee asking for this, is that, as you know, our landfill extension on the landfill redevelopment agreement expires either in October or November of this year. I can't get the financing on that $1.3 million with a redevelopment agreement that expires in the middle of the project. So I will be coming back in, I have conflicts at the next two meetings, September 18th, I think, and I will ask for an extension, and that request will be in this report that I put in, because we need that extension. You know, nobody's going to provide financing of either equity or the debt we have if there's not a redevelopment agreement that's going to be in place while you're implementing the project, including the solar, which is where the money comes from to pay back that financing. So another thing in the letter from the Pinelands was the excuse me, was the access on the adjacent lots that we talked about last time, Kevin, when I was here, and I've been talking with Bob for years about that. We will need to get approval from the owners of those properties because the landfill encroaches on there. So we will need to have a formal access agreement, easement, whatever it is that the solicitor decides is the way to go. The caveat there is the one property is privately owned, as we know. And I've been working with Bob Sandman on that over the years, so we think we can make all that happen. The last action item coming forward, there's a new investment tax credit through the Brownfields organization within the NJEDA, and we will likely submit an application for that. The only requirement from the township there is a letter of support for the project. So I'll draft that and send it in for Brett to look at. But we could, if necessary, we could approve that at the same September 18th meeting that I mentioned before. So that is it, as fast as I can get through it.
Very good, thank you.
One
question.
question.
Yeah.
With the previous engineers and the new engineers, Collier, do they have to research what the other engineers did, or are they picking up where the other engineers left
They're
off?
going to use everything that T&M did.
And they're
We've
gonna
already-
use your previous engineers?
Yes, it's a smooth transition. The last thing that T&M did was the soil erosion sediment control plan. Everybody's aware of that.
They're not gonna back up and cover their butt, they're just gonna take it right where it's at?
They're going to review it, which we want them
Yeah,
to do.
that-
Right,
that's
yeah.
understandable.
And if there's any change, again, the landfill closure plan, we have the opportunity now during this review to, fix anything or change anything needs to be, but it's in pretty good shape. They've already reviewed it over these next two meetings with Colliers. We'll see if they have any other input on that, but I'll let you know. But I don't expect any huge redo of work or anything like that. They've indicated that I don't think that's going to be the case.
Question, is Mr. Dye?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Woods. No offense.
It isn't Denny.
When was the $5,000 escrow fee paid?
That was dropped off this morning.
Okay, all right, thank you. Because that gets the ball rolling. It was paid to
What's that?
It was paid to the Planning Commission.
the Pine
It's an
Lands.
escrow for them.
It was
because-
paid to the Pine Lands because I'm reading the letter
Yeah,
that they were waiting on the 5,000.
yes.
And you were saying that it was done, but it wasn't an update on the information that we had, that the $5,000 was
Correct.
put in.
That's correct.
All right, so was
Yeah,
done
they-
today.
Yep.
And then before the so that gets the ball rolling,
That gets the ball rolling on technical review, yeah.
technical review. And then once everything else that they have put in the letter is submitted with them, with the application, that's when we would get approved.
Once they review it all, then the
You may get
staff
it approved.
recommends it to the commission, and then
Right.
it goes to the commission for a public hearing. Then they write another report, it goes
Right.
back, and then hopefully in the next meeting, there is an actual approval.
Right, what I was trying to get at is that once they have the 5,000,
Yep.
but now we have to, well, not we, you have to, as you stated, contact the property owners within 200 feet.
Yeah, that's,
You gotta put it in the newspaper.
That's
I
in
mean,
process
certain
right
things,
now.
that's the process. Once that process is completed, that has to be completed in order for it to get to the commission. Am I correct?
we're doing that right now.
Correct. All
And-
right, I
and
just
so-
wanted to make sure.
Yeah, those public notices, the airport, the advertisement is going in, et cetera. We were aware of that. We thought there'd be more back and forth with them after the first 30 days and
Right.
so forth, so.
Right, thank you.
And the $5,000 was not submitted with the original application because they told me the $15,000 application fee was sufficient and we wouldn't have to put the 5,000 in.
Right.
We didn't submit it way back when because the funding wasn't there for the project.
The point is, they got it today.
They have it.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Weren't you,
Bob-
weren't you gonna do the Pine Lands like last March?
What's that?
Weren't you doing the Pine Lands March? Right around March?
We got the March of this year.
Yes.
We finished up the landfill closure plan this year, yep, and the raw, and submitted it in May, yeah.
And they're just getting back to you now for the 5,000?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was with us calling in,
If you hadn't called, we might not have heard from them yet, right?
Yeah.
So,
He apologized for getting back so late.
they did.
Yeah.
They did. We were trying to, this opportunity with this clean fill material was a pretty big opportunity. We were ready to get out there with an army of folks and clear the land and, however many bulldozers it took and all that and get it in. It's a dredge project, so the dredge is on a set schedule, so it has to come out and get moved within a time frame, and we can't make that time frame at this point. A new application just for that still has to go through, has to be a complete package, full, and, the full engineering, and has to go through the public notice process, which would take longer than, even the public notice process would take longer than to get the approval before the dredge project's gonna be over, so. That's why the schedules didn't match up.
Bob, you have a question?
Yeah, I was
Hey, Bob.
just looking at the the Pinelands letter that was submitted, and they did respond July 26th, I mean, just recently, so
Yeah.
then they received it in May. What I was concerned about is that no stormwater management report or study was done when you submitted it to the Pinelands,
Oh, no, it was.
but they're asking for, like, complete studies done, that none of it was taken into account.
They're asking, we submitted a full stormwater study, right?
Okay.
And they've asked for some updates, changes to that, some of which, I've got a response, a draft response from TNM. They didn't agree with some of the things, talked about some action items they had to do. As you're well aware, the stormwater rules have changed over the last 2 years as we've gone through this process. They changed after we submitted the original application to the DEP. So that's some of the,
So then Colliers is taking over
Colliers
and
is taking the lead, yeah.
doing all
If
that.
we need to do the additional infiltration out in the field, we'll do that work, yep.
Okay. And then none of that can be used from the grant money, or can it?
No, it can.
It
can.
That can be used from the grant money?
Yep. And
That's the
we've already got that grant money for that process. We're probably gonna go over budget a little bit on that because they're asking for additional stuff. The infiltration testing was done in 2021, 2022, and, the rules changed
Yeah, the beginning of this year.
beginning of this year, so.
Yeah.
And they seem to be going towards the current rules, and so, like they talk about the basins, we think that we can actually use the basins with the rules. So there's some back and forth that we have to deal with. And that'll be in response from Colliers to them during this period while they're doing the technical review. Their technical review is focused on the permeable cap versus an impermeable cap portion of our project.
You can't start construction until you have Pinelands plus DEP's
Can't
approval,
cut a
correct?
tree down until, right, yeah. But the DEP is literally ready to issue, so once we get final approval, it'll be a couple of, say a week, and we'll get our solid waste.
So what's your timeline of getting all the information back to Pinelands?
I'm gonna put that in the written report. I'm gonna submit to committee after I meet with Tim over these next couple of weeks, like we just said.
But it won't be in time for your redevelopment agreement extension?
We may have it in before November,
Okay.
but, yeah.
So the board knows, or the committee, I'm sorry.
Good questions.
Yep.
Pinelands.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if it's okay with you guys, I do have something to do later tonight for a meeting tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna take off. Thank you.
We have lots of
All right,
questions.
Jeff Dye. Moving on, 3C. Redeve-
Go ahead.
Redevelopment ordinance, cannabis ordinance amendments. Total number of licenses to be issued.
Mr. Mayor, I asked to have this put on the agenda, and I want to thank Bruce for enlightening us on all the licenses that are available in the township. I've been back on Township Committee for about 5 months now, spent a lot of time working with the redevelopment in general, and now I'm taking a look at the cannabis ordinance that go along with it. 81 is an outrageous number to even contemplate. So one of the things that I would like to request is the Township Committee look at possibly dropping our numbers to maybe 16 total, 10 growers and 6 retail. That's not a number that I'm suggesting that we do anything with that tonight. I think it needs to be reviewed and looked at about what really fits in this town. Right now, as it sits right now, Aileen, Bruce, you're exactly right. There's 81 possibilities, and there's no way you're going to see 81 of any type here in this town. It just can't handle it, number one. So I'd like to ask the committee to move forward with that action to have us look into how many total licenses are going to be distributed ultimately. I don't know if we have to revisit the total number of 81, because it may be okay that you have 5 here, and, I don't know if that needs to be tweaked, but 81's an excessive amount. The other thing, and again, this is brought up here tonight, about having these whether it's a grow or a retail, being on a single-use piece of property and not being along with other businesses. I think that that's kind of been carved out for retail because we cannot have them in a strip mall or anything like that based on the rules as they sit now. In some discussions with some of the realtors in the strip malls that are in the area, they have it in their lease that they're not allowed. So there are some things in place already by other people that dictate where these places can go, which is a good thing, because it kind of guides us to where we can and cannot go with these. So I think there's a few changes that need to be looked at here. I'm not saying we overhaul the whole thing, but there are some changes. So if we can move forward with that, I would appreciate being able to look into that.
Mr. Shanker and Mayor?
Yes.
One thing, under the state law, since the way the ordinance is worded now, you allow for all classes, we cannot eliminate any classes.
I'm not telling you I want to eliminate. What I'm
Okay.
telling you is, according to the way it's set up, you
Yes.
have that many classes. There's 6, I believe?
6 classes, yes.
So there's 6 classes, and they're distributed all over the township. That's, I don't really have a
No,
problem
no,
with that.
I understand that, but before you mentioned about.
What I'm saying is the town, the people of the town really need to know.
Sure.
How many of these can they expect? And, I'm not against their input either.
No, I'm just reacting
And the
because,
number 6, we have 4 liquor stores now. We have the capability of having 2 more. So there's 6 liquor stores. That's where I said you could possibly go with 6 retail
Right.
distributors.
actually, I was more on
Again.
the other side, when you said the growers or I mean, we can't limit it to just those 2 types. We have to allow.
No.
For the other.
No, I understand it. I understand it,
Just-
but they're
just
gonna have to
clarifying.
fall into categories.
Yes.
Well, I mean, so are we allowed to say only 6 retail
Oh,
and
the total
and
number.
15
the total
of
number is
class
up-
1, 2, 3, and 4?
The total
we
number
do that?
is totally at your discretion, but under the
It's our
state law,
discretion.
since when you didn't adopt an ordinance excluding any of the specific classes,
And I
you
don't
can't do
disagree.
that right now.
So, and this is why I'm saying this is more than just saying, here, let's do 6 of these and 10 of those.
Sure.
This is a deeper conversation that needs to happen, and we have to look at all that kind of stuff. As far as, I know there's license for delivery and license for manufacturing and growing and all that kind of stuff. So I don't, like Carl just said, can we group, like the number 10 could be the group of the last 4, and the 6 just cover retail? Can we break it like that?
That's totally up to your discretion.
Okay. Well, I think we really need to
Yeah.
look into that.
Looking at Emily, waiting for the shake of the head, saying, yeah.
Yeah, because the number, and,
Trust but verify. Trust but verify.
That's
Yeah,
not
but
81
you're
is,
gonna have to rewrite the,
Yes,
81
Mr.
is
Reagan.
definitely,
The amendment.
and I don't think that was ever the intention. I don't think anybody said, hey, let's have 81 of these places, it ought to be a party.
No.
So I just think it needs to be clarified.
Absolutely.
Because at some point, whether we hit that number or not, 16 or 15 or 12 or whatever it ends up being, we can always adjust it. That's another thing that, these ordinances are living documents that we can adjust if the right thing comes
But you
down the
can't
road.
eliminate.
I just don't want to see this get out of control. And
Mr. Mayor, so we can't make this decision tonight, are we making this decision tonight?
Topic for the,
And this was
Redevelopment
for
Review
discussion.
Committee?
I mean, I think we could, if we wanted to, say, go ahead and do a revision to the ordinance, but I think it's something that maybe each of us might want to make a phone call to Phil and talk to Phil about it, or,
Right.
I mean, what do you think? I mean,
really, I'm
thank
just,
you, we should make a decision
if
tonight.
we should make a decision tonight. We need to
Okay.
research this, but I just use those numbers as just throwing them out there.
And
It's nothing,
I think kind of going with the amount of liquor stores, I think that
that's.
kind of seems,
Right.
But how can we make a decision on something that we have not fully discussed and
oh, absolutely.
have the professionals to look
Right.
at and bring us back something? I don't think that we should make decisions, not you per se, Mr. Shanker, but I don't think we should make decisions in our emotions, because
I'm not making a motion.
I said, not you, Mr. Shanker.
Oh.
I just said that.
Okay.
I said, but I feel like that we need to let the professionals that we hire, that we pay, come back and give the board give the township committee a recommendation on what we should do. To me, if we just jump out and say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we haven't had no thought, we had no discussion. We've done nothing. They haven't researched it on what we need to do. We have to include all of the things that we said. How many should it be? I agree that there's something should be done, but I don't think it should be done tonight. I think it should be done at the next meeting. That's my personal opinion.
Do you want to?
You wanna make a motion?
Can I get till September, because I won't be here at the next meeting.
What?
Can we have till the beginning of September? I'm not commuting down from Vermont at the time of the next meeting.
September?
Yeah, that's only 2 meetings.
Is this something we could bring up at the next redevelopment?
That's what I was thinking. I can discuss it with the redevelopment committee, talk,
Your subcommittee.
do other research, see how many other communities, and, do our usual benchmark as far as our neighbors of comparable size, see how they're doing it.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment when we were going over this ordinance about, the different types and how many. I'm going, Hamilton Township is going to be known as the cannabis capital of, of New Jersey. And so, we have to seriously look at restricting a number or coming up with a number.
Okay, moving on. Public hearing, ordinance 2050-2023, an ordinance of the Township of Hamilton establishing provisions for the licensing and regulation of cannabis establishments.
I know we have to
This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you explain a little bit about the regulation and licensing and regulation, what this ordinance is all about, please?
Phil?
Sure. Very briefly, under the Cannabis Act, or CREAM as it's known, local municipalities are allowed to establish their own licensing. This is in addition to the state license that each entity is required to have. Again, it sets some local standards that we have. A lot of the information and requirements mirror what they're required to provide for the state. What we've included in this ordinance is the process by which they make application to the township, the process we're going to follow. I know that already Rita's office has been working on the application form and getting a checklist put together so that the information is provided in a timely manner. It be reviewed. Ultimately, the license would have to be approved by the governing body. There are certain standards that have to be met as far as the information provided. Not only that, how the operator conducts their business. Certain things they're going to have to do. I know, as Emily mentioned before, they're going to have to be doing testing on a regular basis for odors around their property. They're going to have to control what are commonly known as nuisances, make sure that you don't have underage people trying on their property trying to purchase, that they maintain the property in good order, that they dispose of materials properly. There's also procedures in here for if somebody is in violation, the steps that go through, be it if it gets to the point where it needs a hearing before the governing body, or in some cases, there's actually I guess it's extreme cases, a review by a special group established, special committee established for that specific violation, which would consist of the mayor, I think the administrator, and one other member, maybe even the police chief on that. So that's the purpose here. There's also penalties included in here. If you're in violation, these are the penalties that can be imposed, which could be anything from a fine, since it's a citable offense, and reality is, if the business is not operating properly, there are provisions in here for revocation of licenses or non-renewal. So, again, we're trying to make sure that while the state looks at things from the macroscopic level, locally, that these businesses are good neighbors, and they aren't nuisances to the community.
It establishes annual fees.
Annual application fees, the whole 9 yards in that, yes.
And so I'll read, so nuisances at cannabis facilities. Purpose: in order to prevent nuisance from noise, odor, dust, light, glare, heat, noxious gases, smoke, traffic, vibrations, unsafe conditions, or other negative impacts of a cannabis facility, or which otherwise may be injurious to the public health, safety, or welfare of the inhabitants of the Township of Hamilton, the following shall be considered a nuisance: the creation of noise when measured at the property boundary of the land on which the cannabis facility is located in excess of 20 decibels above ambient noise level; the emission of odor that is detectable at and/or travels beyond the property boundary of the land on which the cannabis facility is located; the receipt of 3 or more standard verified complaints regarding the cannabis facility within a period of 60 days, maintaining, cultivating, and/or growing cannabis upon private property within the township, except in full compliance with the provisions of this chapter; disposal of cannabis or any part thereof, cannabis waste, and/or any other waste from a cannabis facility, except in a strict accordance with a waste disposal plan provided by the township. These are just, that's real quick, kind of, and these are some of the things that people are concerned about, that this will do, that this covers.
That all sounds really good, but the township does not have a very good track record when it comes to enforcing these types of ordinances. I'll give you one example. There's many. There's a lot between Freddie J's and Neville's that has been in violation through multiple owners, administrators, zoning officers for more than 8 years, and it's still, and also a township resolution, okay, to correct the situation. It has not been. Everybody knows about it. So how can you assure everybody that if you can't enforce a very simple ordinance or a violation, how are you going to explain or convince us that you're going to regulate and take care of any violations on a whole new industry? This has been
Right.
8 years. It's well documented, year after year after year, and this is just one example of many. So how do you say, we're going to forget about the past and now we're going to regulate cannabis with the same number of people and the same people? It's hard to believe how you're going to do this. So I don't expect an answer, but something that you need to think about, not only with cannabis, with everything else. That is my concern. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Teresa DeRose from Laureldale, and regarding the cannabis thing, thanks for extending everybody's time and not arresting anybody. But Judy, thank you for your presentation of needing more information to be given to the public, because everybody needs to know the ins and outs of everything. I was here the day that they presented their thing about the cannabis, and what was told in that meeting was that they're going to be growing the cannabis. They're not going to be selling it, because you cannot sell the cannabis as it's grown. It needs to be dried, needs to be processed, packaged, all this other stuff. You can't just go there and buy it. So as far as your regulations and your licensing, he can't get the license for, selling it because it's a farm market for vegetables and whatever at the moment. He has to be relicensed for whatever. And so he had said that he was going to have trucks coming and picking up the wet material so that it can be processed. And I think the problem with the people is miscommunication because it's not listed, itemized. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Everybody can't make the meetings or watch, 3 hours of this thing to get to the end. So if we have it in writing, we can quick, and go through and find out what we really want to know. So when we come to the next meeting, because I think it's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of fear, and, oh my God, they're going to take over the world. No, it's, if you give us the information, like Judy said, we're going to get the water from here, we're going to get this license, we're going to get that license. This is the day it's going to start. Any public, comments, this is the day to do it. This way, everybody has more on board with what's going on because they're all thinking, traffic of people coming to buy all this stuff. From what I'm told, the blue building across from the Hamilton Mall is a dispensary. He's a grower. It's a different thing. So maybe there's a miscommunication there. And if we got it all straightened out, like Judy had asked, that's what we want. And Judy, you were very impressive tonight. Wow. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen Dix, no notes. This is unexpected, but my memory is very clear. With what I heard him say, Carl, with what I heard you read, I don't know that you can do this. And the reason I say that is the July 20th Planning Board meeting, the applicant for a retail store was very, very clear on move, every step, armed guard, et cetera, et cetera. And if, I'll use the word expired, if the product expired, the state has specific steps to neutralize the cannabis and mix it with cat litter, and there'll be a state inspector standing there watching all. So maybe you need to put a hold for tonight. You need to listen to the tape recording of the planning board meeting of what it is the state is going to require. The state is going to be on site. Jack Percy asked about how are we going to be sure the accounting, keeping the books. The state's hands are in the middle of all of it all the time. And so you may be overstepping thinking you could do this when the state is the one that's on site. So I'm urging you to hold this off if you can for 2 weeks. Listen to the tape. He can listen to the tape. He wasn't there. There's nobody here except Richard and I that were in the room that night. You were there?
I was there,
You were there and you were there. I beg your pardon.
and so was Emily.
Okay, so where with what I'm remembering Adam Siegel saying about he's going to have an armed guard, he's going to be open, I think he
I just read one snippet. There is,
but does it blend with what the state is going to be doing to the licensees compared to what we think we're doing as an overlap?
What the state is the state. What this refers to, I believe, is our stuff. If the odor's out, I know in our ordinance, if the odor consists, we have the right
I didn't
in our
mention that.
ordinance.
I didn't mention odor.
Thank you. This gives us the right to shut that business down for 10 working days to have them get it fixed. What the state does for disposing of the product, that's up to them. That's not up to us. This gives us the right to police our own people or above and beyond the state.
But he said about disposal. The state is in control of disposal, so it's like a duplication to me. You can't, in this case, I don't think you can override what the state says.
No, I agree with
I
that.
don't think we're overriding.
No.
We're just saying you gotta have a waste disposal plan. We're agreeing with what the state says.
Emily, if you were there, were they? Were you there on Adam Siegel's? Correct. And the cat litter was why it stuck in my mind. It's going to be neutralized, and they decide how it gets handled. They, the state.
This is just in addition to, so if we find that they are disposing of something that they shouldn't be disposing of in a way they shouldn't be disposing of it, which is highly unlikely because of how regulated it is. And every cannabis operator, grower that I have ever heard speak, any seminar that I've been part of, and everything that I've read about cannabis growing, he was correct. It's from seed until sale. That is tracked, and there's a barcode, and it's attached to it. So it's highly unlikely that any of that would ever occur with regard to a retail operation.
Richard and I heard that, but the other four didn't hear that part of the conversation at the planning board meeting.
Right, so but they've heard, I believe everyone has heard that how that process starts from beginning to end. They weren't here for the Royal Highness application, but they have heard that previously in other discussions that we've had about cannabis, and other presentations that have been made about cannabis. But this ordinance itself, Phil, doesn't it say also that where it may, if it does conflict at all with state law applies?
State law would supersede.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if there is something contradictory or something that the state has preempted, that would apply. I don't
Yeah.
believe, yeah, and a duplication is fine. It certainly shouldn't be contrary to, because again, state law would apply. I don't believe it's contrary to. I think it's supportive of.
Good evening, committee. Jim Link, 676 Park Road, 763 Park Road. I have a question concerning, and I hope I'm not ahead of myself, because this is an awfully complicated situation, and I appreciate that all the machinations going in to get this thing taken care of. But is there now, or do you have plans in incorporating all of this into the master plan when it comes to land use? Is there an element in the master plan? Is there a new element, like with recreation and transportation, all that kind of stuff? Or is it going to be incorporated in some other manner into the master plan so that is reviewed at least when the master plan is reviewed? Or is it every 5 or 6 years? I forget. Something you might want to consider. I don't need an answer now, but I think it's an awful important element that has to find its way into the master plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Motion to close? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? So, what's anybody's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Thank you.
4B, public hearing, ordinance 2051-2023, an ordinance amending Article 10 of Chapter 167 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, vital statistics. This is basically to adjust the fees for any vital record, correct, Rita?
Certified copies of any vital record, yes.
Sorry, certified copies of any vital record.
Like marriage certificates?
Marriage certificate, or whatever.
Or whatever.
What's your pleasure?
Open the public.
So-
Public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my bad. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Anybody?
I'll move the ordinance 2051, 2023.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Public hearing ordinance 2052-2023, an ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 163 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, amending certain portions thereof pertaining to fees for excavations in streets.
Public.
Does the public hearing, anybody from the public wish to speak? Seeing no one,
Motion to close?
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. So this is just adjusting the fees for road openings. What's your pleasure?
Move ordinance 2052-2023.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
6A, approve change order for Peterson Service Company for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning service in the amount of $53,974.00.
That is going out to bid, is that correct?
No, this is using our current,
HVAC
HVAC contractor.
Change to the contract to increase.
it's not really a change order, it's a change to the
change
contract.
So it should be, yeah, okay, thank you. So it's not a change order, it's just like an amendment to the contract?
We're increasing the not to exceed amount, an additional $53,974 to do the 2 air handlers on the roof.
How much was it before?
What was the amount, the original?
I want to say it was like
What was it,
55.
50,000?
Same? Okay. So moved?
I have a motion.
I'll move the resolution.
I have a motion and a second.
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Just one question.
Oh, go ahead.
On the proposal, and I know we don't pay taxes, but on the proposal page, it says price does not include tax. I just wanted to be clear that we wouldn't be paying that. I know we're not going to pay it, but it was on the proposal.
That's standard on any,
I've never seen it, that's why I
Tax
want to make
exempt.
sure.
it's standard because we have to give them a tax exempt form in order to process this PO, correct?
Yes.
On the proposal, I see 52,915. On the change order, it's 53,974.
I thought that was in addition to. That's the-
We're all doing calculators.
I'll get the calculator. If I can figure it
I
out.
thought it was an additional. Is it an additional, or is it actually the change of the price?
Now, this is an additional contract to the original
Right,
HVAC
so
contract.
it's an amendment
This
to
is
the
for two
contract.
rooftop units.
Amendment.
So it'd be the 52,915 plus the 53.
No.
No, I would defer to the written quote from Peterson on the actual amount of $52,915.
Yeah.
Yeah, how come that?
So what are we amending then?
You're gonna,
So we're going to change
the
the,
$53,974 to the quoted amount of $52,915.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
okay, so
52,915.
that's the change right
So
there.
in all reality, the motion is for 52,915. Yeah. You have a motion?
Do I hear a motion for this change, for this,
I'll motion.
Second.
for $52,915.00?
Wait a minute, is it, I'm confused.
No,
Hold
you
on.
said 53.
I thought it should be the $53,974.
Yeah, that,
It
that
should
was
be
a typo.
Oh, that's a typo?
Yes.
Because I questioned that earlier.
Oh, it should be 52.
52,915,
Oh,
correct?
Correct.
Yes.
That's what's on their quote, on
Okay.
their proposal.
All right,
okay.
so there's no change order, it's just an amendment.
It's a good observation.
All right,
We have a motion
Have a motion and a
Motion
second.
and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
6B, authorize Remington and Vernick engineers to provide additional environmental services for the Public Works fuel tank closure in the amount of $5,000. Brett,
We
you want to
need
give
to-
us a little background on this?
We need to do a little bit more soil testing around the gasoline tank at Public Works. This is for an additional testing pit and for the lab to retest some of the soils around the tank. This may be covered under our existing policy through Chubb. If it is not, it will be
County pays
reimbursable
half.
from the county for 65%.
Oh, no, 65%, right? Not half,
65%.
65%, my bad. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Purchase bulk rock salt from the Atlantic County Co-op, 2023-2024, from Chemical Equipment Labs at $77.77 per ton,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed $311,080.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
I
Mr.
have a
Cheek?
question.
It's a
Sorry.
question.
It's a
Sorry.
quick question. Is this for the salt? This is not to, we didn't use no salt last year.
I don't
It is
believe
snow.
so.
We didn't use any salt last year. We had no snow.
So,
If we
so, how many tons can it, so we still have the salt from last year?
We still have the salt from the year before. We didn't use any salt last year. We have the ability to hold around 1,000 tons of salt. So this not to exceed amount here would potentially fill our salt shed up 4 times. If we need it, it's a not to exceed. We call, we order, we'll order $20,000 worth of salt at a time. Typically, it's around 300 tons of salt per per order, depending on the storm.
It just seemed a little much since we didn't use it last year.
It's on an as-need basis, right?
But
Brett?
you don't
Yes.
know.
So we may not get any.
We may not get any snow again.
We
We
don't have
may
a
get
contract
a
in
lot of
place.
snow again.
We won't be able to get any.
I understand, I'm
this
just
is-
asking the question.
We're purchasing it through the county co-op, so they ask us for an estimated use.
Problem.
Right.
Typically, we estimate between 3,000 and 4,000 tons a year.
And so if we don't use it, then the money goes back into the surplus.
Yes.
That's fine.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
6D, award second-year option for bid 2021-09 snow plowing to Warner's Construction Incorporated, Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, for a not-to-exceed amount of $50,000 for the period of October 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2024. I would like to see this go out to bid. I think we can get better numbers. That's my opinion.
So if it goes out to bid, are we gonna pull it?
Isn't that a as-needed basis?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
as needed,
Yeah.
but I mean, I look at these numbers, and they seem awfully, awfully high. And this is from, when was this original bid?
This is from last year.
2021?
Yes.
So, back during COVID, I don't know, maybe they were shooting for. And they were the only bidder too, right? I still think we should, my opinion, but I'm only one person, so,
We do have time if we want to rebid it. It's only August, but
To be put out to
Do it soon.
rebid.
I have a whole year.
Yeah. Throw it out the bid.
What are we doing?
Do we need a motion or something to put this out to bid, or we just do it?
we can rebid it.
Okay? I agree.
so do we have to do anything with this? Motion to,
You want them to vote it down, Mr. Solicitor? Or just skip it?
should we vote this down?
Yeah, I would vote down.
Yeah, okay. So move the,
Second your options, you're lucky not to do that because you want to put it out to bid, I think you need to put it.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
so move.
Second?
Motion to second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
No.
Or no, I'm sorry.
I'm not telling you what, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not telling you what to do. I didn't tell him what to do.
Chantel, can you erase that?
All right.
So the motion is to award the bid. So-
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Mr. Cheek?
no.
Mrs. Link?
no.
Mr. Shanker?
No.
Dr. Witherspoon?
No.
Mayor Patali?
No.
Motion is defeated.
There we go. Oh, consent agenda. Come on, we're so close, everybody. We're so close.
We are not, we are.
What do I hear?
I'll make a motion, carry the consent agenda A through M. But I do have one question.
Is the question under 20 seconds?
Yes,
Okay.
I need a second to ask the question.
I'll second.
The question is, extended third quarter grace period, what is it being extended to?
25 days, the grace period.
Do we have a
25 days from Friday?
And when you get the bill,
Thought it was
Yeah, it's
8/29.
25 days
That's
after the
7E.
postmark on the bill.
25 days?
70.
Oh, I got mine today.
25 days after August 1st.
Okay.
August 1st?
Well, if,
No. What letter is it?
no,
I got
when
mine
they-
today.
they submitted the
Hang
bill.
on. Let me see if I have any, my understanding is it's 25 days.
25 days after the last bill was mailed.
After the last.
Right.
postmark.
So that would have been 25 days from, is that Friday that we mailed them out? So they started receiving them today, so it'd be 25 days from Friday.
25 days from Friday. So it'd be the 29th.
Sounds good.
But
a very
please
popular
pay in
question.
advance.
That's tonight.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
I got just one question.
Oh, I have another question.
Just real quick, just help me with this, Britt. I'm sorry, Mr. Administrator. I had a question on 7D.
Okay?
This here, the tax collector, he's requesting permission to cancel the property taxes. So this one, or this resolution is canceling it? As I wasn't sure on that.
So you're asking for 7D or 7?
I understood 7C, he already had the documentation on that, but 7D, he said.
7D is a few of the three properties listed, the mortgage companies made the property tax payments, so now we're refunding.
Refunded the property. Okay, I got it. All right, I'm good.
Okay, I have a motion, a second for 7A through M. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Personnel, we don't have anything. Approvals. Minutes, regular meeting minutes, July 17th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Minutes, executive session meeting minutes of July 17th, 2023.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Bills, bill list, total $5,568,244.61.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Just one question. Just one question, it's real fast. We are getting, gas, Aline, from Riggins, and we're also paying the county. All right? And we're paying the county almost 10,000, close to 8,000, some change.
It's a lot less than we were paying before we had the temporary tanks.
Okay.
We still use the Hamilton and Northfield locations occasionally. Sometimes those temporary tanks run out of fuel. Sometimes Public Works is in Weymouth, where the police are in the Weymouth section of the township. It's quicker for them to go to Hamilton and drive all the way back to Mays Landing, so they go to Hamilton. And so we still have a bill coming through from the county co-op.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Reports. Administrator.
Real quick, I wanted to wish the new owner of the former MUA building good luck with that, and thank you for taking it off our hands. Also, I want to thank Hershey Wise and his associates for coming down, giving a good presentation, their diligence, and for pushing this project forward. And we're excited to see what happens there.
Absolutely. Solicitor.
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Engineer.
Just a quick, Mayor, one of the road programs have started, Atlantic Avenue, Phase 2, where the water main was installed. Did some storm sewer improvements, and the curbing is going to start tomorrow. And then be some work done on Nelson Avenue, some storm sewer, and then concrete work over there, and then hopefully New York Avenue in the next, probably the end of the month, we should be starting out there with that being improved. And Leapy concession stand and the parking lot will be coming in on Friday, and hopefully the bids are favorable, and we might be able to award it, the project at the next meeting.
Very good. Thank you. Committee members, we'll start with Dr. Witherspoon.
First, I want to say that the National Night Out was spectacular. I thought that the chief, the staff, everybody who participated in it, to me, it was one of the best. I've been going to it since they were at the, before when it was at the mall. But to see it at Gaskill, to see it on our property, it was really good. It was well organized. The kids had a great time, and then they ended it with the fireworks, and that was just like, I said, my grandkids were ready to go. I said, you can't go into the fireworks. And the fireworks was just spectacular. The whole thing was well put together. The music, the food trucks, the spacing. I was really proud of Hamilton Township's National Night Out. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone who participated in that. I thought that was really great. And two other things, certainly our condolences are with Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver's family. She was the second lieutenant governor in our state, but the first African-American to hold that. And her services will be this week. And certainly our prayers and stuff are with her family. I wanted to say that. And last but not least, we had another wonderful person in Hamilton Township to pass, and that was Margaret Peggy Capone. And I knew her, and she was a fierce woman, but she done a lot. She done a lot on the Greater Egg School Board, and she lived in Lauderdale, but still in Hamilton Township. and her services will be on Saturday. I didn't know all of her family. I didn't know her husband, but I've met her daughters before. But certainly our condolences are with the family of Margaret, Peggy, Kelly, Capone. And I just wanted to make sure that I said that. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Schenker?
Yeah, I'll be brief because it's almost 10 o'clock. I just want to, again, reiterate Dr. Witherspoon's words about National Night Out. By far the best one we've ever seen. It gets better and better every year. And a special thank you to all that were involved, everybody that worked hard to put it together, and it seemed to come off without a hitch. And it was very well laid out, and even the food trucks and everything was pretty good. So the kids enjoyed themselves, and that's what's important. That's what the event is all about. So once again, thank you to everybody, and let's do it again next year.
Very good. Mrs. Link?
Yes, I think the National Night Out was just the finest that I've seen, and I've seen them since they were over at the Woodlands before the, at the mall, and it just made everyone happy. And I would like to thank all the members of the community that donated to the fireworks. It made it really spectacular. And I also wanted to mention the one young lady that I had said that came from the Skating Figure Club of South Jersey, went to nationals. She competed in 5 different divisions. One junior world-class skating, sophomore dance, figures, and she scored in the top 10% of the whole country. So she did well, but her object will be at one time to go to Worlds. So let's hope that she continues doing what she's doing. Thank you.
Mr. Cheek?
I agree with everyone so far with the National Night Out. It was quite an event, and I know on social media a lot of people were complaining about the location, but where can you get a better location than that? What a beautiful location. The grass was perfect. Everything just worked out great that night. I thank the PBA, Public Works, and the Mays Land Fire Company for doing what they did to make such a nice event. And that's all I have.
Very good. Echo the words of Dr. Witherspoon about Lieutenant Governor Oliver and Peggy Capone, 2 public servants that gave a lot, and sad to hear their passing. National Night Out, everybody's already said it, was a great job. Sergeant Mike Tannum, Detective Nicole Odell, and I guess I got to give some credit to our chief. You know, the chief always says, I don't take credit unless it's a success. Yeah, it was your brainchild. So, great time, and thanks to all the volunteers, all the fire companies in the Township of Hamilton. Public Works did a fantastic job. I didn't go by the next morning, but I heard some people say that it looked like nothing even happened there the night before. When I left, I know last year there were piles of trash by the trash cans. This year, I guess there were more trash cans out. It wasn't as bad. And there were definitely more people this year than last year. It was fantastic. Really, really, really nice. So thanks to everybody who donated money, all of our businesses, the local people that donated. It's fantastic, and can't do it without them. War Memorial Park, our Public Works now has the statue, the lady sipping the water. The water is coming out of all the places that the water is supposed to be coming out of, finally. And it was done in-house, didn't have to hire somebody out. What's that?
We budgeted $25,000 this year for that.
And
Significant savings.
yeah, So good job, great job.
I'm just mad it didn't get fixed when I was the Public Works Director, I guess.
Well, I'm upset that you moved up and you didn't get that done. I mean, come on.
Thank you, Chris.
No, good job, the Public Works out there doing that. That's awesome. I know it means a lot to a lot of people to have that working, and park always looks great. This Friday night is the second annual commemoration of the 1880 train crash. It's at 6 p.m. at the Presbyterian Church, and then they will walk down to the trestle itself and do a service down there. That's 6 p.m. this Friday night. And I just want to mention boat races are coming up on Lake Lenape. They are September 9th and 10th. Boat races on the lake, always a good time. Hopefully we have some good weather. So with that, Reagan, I'm sure I'll see you this week. Maddie, I love you and I miss you, and I hope to see you soon. We'll open it up to the public.
Hi, Teresa DeRose from Laureldale. Facebook now has a new name for Mays Landing. They opened up a new app on Facebook for things happening in Mays Landing, and also Nixle changed their name and said that for all the police Nixle, you have to re-register for the new name. It's the same thing, but it's a new name. But as far as all the information, like the 25, 30-page information regarding the cannabis thing, that could be a perfect place to put it on, like a website, and then people can click on it and read it, and it'll clear up a lot of miscommunications and fears, and I really think that would help, because there's a lot of people on that, and that instead of just Facebook stuff, they actually have a section for that, or you could put it at the bulletin board,
I mean, all of our ordinances are on our website.
No, the specific 25, 30-page thing that they were talking about, where they're going to be drilling for water, where they're going to get their power supply, all that's going to be itemized out, so that instead of just a little piece of paper like this, it's going to be, people can actually read it and get a better comprehension of what's going on, instead of yelling at you and yelling at everybody else and getting, all upset about something that could be easily, rectified by reading it beforehand.
Thank you.
Hi, Debbie Mackey, 500 Sunpine Drive, Mays Landing. That's the Gravelly Run section. I'll be brief, and this is not about cannabis. I've been trying for a couple of years to contact Atlantic City Electric and ask for their help. And now I've been getting the runaround, so I'm asking the township's help to get Atlantic City Electric to move hundreds of tires from their easement on my property. My family's owned the property for 60 years. In the 80s, they came to my father. They were worried that their tower was going to fall into the Great Egg Harbor River, and they convinced him to shore up the embankment with tires. He thought they were going to be 4 or 5 tires high. They gave an example up in Batstow, what it looked like. We went up and looked at it, and he said, okay. We're Pennsylvania residents and always have been. It's a little place that we use for our summer vacation home. And we came down from Pennsylvania to find that in places the tires were piled 15 tires high. This was back in the 80s. Our neighbors have a cottage next door. We were worried that the tower might fall on their house, and so we let them do what Atlantic City Electric does. In 2019, they put in new towers on that line, and they moved the tower back 100 feet from the edge of the embankment. So there's no longer a danger of the tower falling in the river. Plus, they put the towers in the 80s before the tire fire under I-95 and before we realized they were such a terrible environmental hazard. For a while, after Sandy, all the tires really started to come loose. My father had them put rebar in, and now the rebar is sticking up, and there's no tires around them. For a while, I was pulling the tires out of the Great Egg Harbor River and taking them up to Public Works 4 at a time on a Saturday morning, but I'm getting too old to do that. And I really need Township's help in clearing up this before everybody forgets whose fault it was, and I have to clean up all the pay the expense to clean up all the tires. You know, if I should die unexpectedly, I don't want my heirs to have to deal with that problem. So I'm asking the township to, someone in the township to work with me on that.
Can you give your contact info to Brett?
I will. Okay, thank you. I don't want to take up any more time this evening because it's.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll help you out.
Justin Anacone, Burn Factory, and also from Jeans, longtime Mays Landing resident, and I'm sorry I waited till the end when no one's here to speak, but I'll be quick. Just want to say thank you for working with us and our company so far. I'm sorry that this has caused us to such a ruckus, and here we are at 10 o'clock because of a lot of the misinformation out there. I know there's a lot that's going to be discussed with the professionals, and we'll work out all the details at that. But I just urge you all to really look at what's being said. I pulled up the article that was being stated earlier. A lot of it is around trespass grows, which is actually illegal criminal organizations growing in forests. And yes, they steal water from rivers to water their crops. Obviously, that's not what we're doing. So just please, let's stick to the facts. Let's look at real facts. I hear everyone's concerns. We're willing to work with everyone, get you the answers that you want. But let's stick to real facts. And that article actually goes on to say legalization could close environmental loopholes. So I think what we're trying to do, and being a legal operation, is what we can set an example of how to do this the right way and not destroy the environment, and not make everyone's lives miserable. I'm not trying to do that. So just thank you for that. Just wanted to say that. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I had some questions on the cotton mill presentation. I didn't hear a lot of it. What type of housing is that anyway? Is it condominium? Is it apartments? What did they say? Apartments? Okay. Okay. Is it nonprofit by any chance?
I don't think it's nonprofit.
So it's not
I don't think so.
nonprofit? Okay.
When I dealt with them.
Okay, I understand. I couldn't hear. That's why.
Yeah, it's I'm sure it's for, I'm not gonna say I'm sure.
Okay,
I'm assuming it's for profit.
okay,
Yeah,
good.
they wouldn't come back.
And did they say 64 parking spaces?
I don't think he said
Said
parking
50.
spaces.
Oh, they did not?
There was 50
But there's 115 units?
underneath.
Oh, underneath.
Underneath. I
Okay.
think that's the only number I heard.
And then there's additional ones across the street.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Jim Link again. I'll be brief, but along those lines, Cotton Mill, I'm disappointed at what they have come back from when the planning board approved their initial application in 2005. And there's a lot of stuff, and I'm glad that at least something's moving, because everybody is frustrated with the way that property has been for, these many years. But what was proposed before was mixed use. And part of that was commercial, retail, boutique kinds of, shops, which were intended to be the financial and commercial anchor of Main Street. Everybody talks about, let's make Main Street great. Well, it is what it is, unless somebody takes the initiative to do something like they were going to do back in 2005. I'm very disappointed about that. They're substituting more apartments to get the rents up, to make the money, okay? But they've left that in the dust, to the detriment of everybody on Main Street. It's not that that's their responsibility, but back in 2005 or wherever it really sounded good. Then in September of 2007, boom, it all went in smoke, which is a shame. But I would urge committee, and whoever's on the planning board or the zoning board, whoever they're going to, with this redevelopment, I would urge them to pull that number back from residential units and make space for that mixed use, so that they were doing what they were going to do back in 2005. They're holding us hostage because they know that people want things done, and they figure we're going to knuckle under. I would suggest that perhaps you make that suggestion if it's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Motion to close public session.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? So have it. We are going into executive session, correct?
Yes,
Motion to close
and
this?
She's going to give
we
the,
may be coming back out. I think there's a good possibility, correct, Mr. Solicitor?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Also, I can make this fairly brief. I don't know if you want to take a recess in between standard and executive session, but if
no, we're not taking a
you want
recess.
to go right
We
through.
gotta
we're gonna
wait
go right
for the
to that.
folks to leave, though.
Come on, Kevin. Dance quick.
I will.
All right, we're back in session. Rita, would you like to read this resolution?
I would. Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton hereby authorizes and directs its solicitor to settle the litigation currently pending under the caption Site Centers Corp. Versus Township of Hamilton by agreeing that the township shall release the performance guarantee and the maintenance bond at issue in the litigation in exchange for dismissal of the action with prejudice and with each party to pay its own counsel fees and costs. Nothing in this resolution shall affect the rights of the parties as it relates to any and all tax appeals on the property. We'll need a motion and
Do
a
I hear a
second.
motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Oh, hang on a second.
Do I need a roll call vote?
Yes? Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Go home.
No, I want to